Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, I'll be shortly joining Patrick Gunnels, who has invited me on to have a debate with a couple of people on his network that he operates on Rumble. So I'm going to be joining him shortly, and yeah, that's about it. Hopefully we'll get the skinny on who these people are from him when he joins me, and yeah, I'll transition across once I've got him in the phone call.
Episode 7, either way. It's a newer show, but Josh is going to be in a bit. We host it together, and we have our own platforms, our own shows as well.
Okay. David and Josh, and this is on... What's the
just on Rumble. It's on Badlands Media on Rumble. They're like number 3 on Rumble right now.
Badlands Media.
Yeah. It was started by John Harold. He goes by Patel Patriot. And then his channel started taking off, and it got so big. He said, I want to have people that have different perspectives come in and like build a network. And so now he's got all kinds of hosts in there and stuff like that. So he invited us over. We're like, okay, cool. It's been going pretty well. We've gotten pretty decent exposure on the channel. So we'll get a lot of people in here for this today.
Cool. And do you have much interaction with Patrick? I know he's on the same network, but obviously has a different show.
I've actually never met Patrick. I've just spoken to him on like Telegram chats and stuff like that. I've seen him on John's show. That's about all I know.
Okay, you've seen him before though. Okay.
Yeah. He's an excellent reader. He reads very well.
Is that so? I don't know Patrick that well.
All the, like when John pulls up articles and like really detailed government documents and stuff, it's usually Patrick doing the reading out. And
I see.
It's very pleasant.
He's just contacted me, actually. I'll just tell him I'm in the stream.
Okay. How about yourself? You have your own show and everything, I'm assuming?
Wait, that's how I got to know Patrick. He's one of my Patreons. So he contacted me and said, a couple of guys on my network want to debate Flat Earth. Will you come and help me debate Flat Earth? And I was like, yeah, no worries.
Sweet. That's awesome. Oh, and there's Patrick there.
You should see Nathan too.
Patrick.
I'm here, but you can't see me.
How's
My camera can't get working.
Can
I'm
you hear
afraid,
me?
Patrick.
Yeah, his webcam's having an issue connecting for some reason, but you can hear him.
Check. 1 2 1 2.
Nathan. Wait a minute. Nathan says he's in the show.
You should be able to hear him.
Do you not hear me?
I hear Nathan. I just don't see him.
Yeah, I can't get my camera working.
issue.
I did try. I just couldn't get the thing working. I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
You should still, if you want, Nathan, if you do want to need to share screen, it'll share. Just maybe do a test, and I'll show Patrick too. It's real simple, man. It's just you see the mic and the camera icon. It's right below there. Share screen. If you got to pull audio in, you just got to remember to hit the little check mark on the bottom left.
We should have done a test before we did this.
Yeah. See, so if I have this, you can see that, Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's easy enough. So I'll keep that loaded so you don't have to keep pulling it in. And then Patrick, if you want to give it a shot.
What am I looking for? Add extra camera, presentations, local video, share a video file from your computer. Or just share what if I just want to share my screen?
Yeah, share screen. So I don't know where you went. If you go to the...
Got it. I'm down. I got it.
Okay, sweet.
So
you can either do entire screen or share tabs. Like I just do my entire screen and have everything ready to go. But
I've got a whole bunch of videos that I can share. Let me see if I can share a local video just for grins.
Sure.
So like, let's see if this works.
Okay, I heard a little bloop. That's probably it. There we go. Oh, okay. Hold on. So that
December
would be
12th, 1901. Guglielmo.
So restart it. So for this one, Oh, I see. Because it's like a local video. You know, what would be better. Are you able to screen share that video? Like just have the video play on your, like if you just share your entire screen, I'll show you the difference.
Why don't I try? Okay.
Otherwise it pulls it in like as if it's pulling in.
Share my screen, share a Brave tab, but I can't. I want to share a window.
Yeah. So just do screen one, share screen one.
Okay.
So entire screen.
Yep. Entire screen and share system audio.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'll do. And wait, it won't let me share it. Now it will. But now look, it's going to create this ridiculous effect.
Only if you have Restream up. So now click over on your, See, look, now we go here.
Okay. So if I want to go to, and now it'll play it. It's playing it.
Yeah. Can you see?
The Antarctic Treaty is an important proof of the flat Earth.
Well, I won't be able to see because
and multinational effort to prevent people from determining what's beyond the 60th South Parallel and Antarctica. In short, independent travel is not allowed or outside of the 60th.
Okay, so that's how it'll do it then, is I'll be able to see, because I can see on the left-hand side when you've got the video up. As soon as you have it selected, just say go ahead. I pull it on, you mute, press the video, and then there's going to be I'll mute as well, and then it's going to be simple like that.
Can you think why Nathan wouldn't be able to display his webcam?
I can't, because I don't have access to any additional settings for each guest. In Restream, I was telling him like he says it's selected because it's in the settings wheel, right? You go to video, it shows video input. You can select your webcam, and he's saying it's selected, but there it is.
There what is?
Nathan.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Except Nathan is muted, I think. So now we got the video, Nathan. Now we got to swap the audio.
No, you don't have to do anything with the audio. I'm just locally muted.
We're good.
Hot damn. All right.
The miracle of technology.
Oh, yes. And I'm assuming that Josh will be joining us a bit in 19 minutes.
Yeah, we still got 20 minutes. So he'll pop in. I've sent him the link here. I'll text him.
There we go.
And David, what exactly was the reason why you didn't want me just to share an individual video? Because that way I'd be able to keep Restream open at the same time.
Oh, to watch it on Restream? The only reason is if you do that, I have to go on the sidebar and turn everybody's webcam off every time and then put everybody back in, because it's going to pull it in as if it's another person joining the call. So it'll keep it in a smaller window. We won't see the whole video.
Okay.
That's the only.
So I'm going to keep my use of these things to a minimum then, because that sounds kind of like a cumbersome process. So,
well, how about this? Let's test it. Why don't you try just real quick, pull that video back as the video input, and I'll just
source.
Yeah,
local video, Antarctic Treaty.
Yeah. Okay. So then if I go like this, so see, it's going to play. Oh, it could kind of.
Couldn't you just make it the big thing?
The Antarctic Treaty is an important proof of the flat Earth.
Then I have to do this.
Is an intentional and multinational effort to prevent people from determining what's beyond the 60th South Parallel.
See what I mean? Here, I'll bring you back.
In Antarctica.
That's the only pain in the ass, is it's not like a smooth transition, which I don't mind if you want to do that for like maybe if there's like some main videos you want to do, we can do that. And then that's not a problem. I don't mind if you prefer that.
I don't feel like any of these videos are essential. It would be nice if we could seamlessly do it like StreamYard. StreamYard makes it so that we just get arrayed off on the side and then the video becomes the main event. It's quite nice.
Right.
So anyway, I'm not going to, I don't really want to make a big deal about it though. I've got a bunch of videos queued up that I can use if needed, but there's always the possibility that this will just be a discussion.
Right.
So I don't
actually, something we could do, do, if you had, say you pick like your top 3 videos, if you send them over to me now, the files, I have another option where I have video clips. Like I'll show you an example. If I just put a video clip, I literally just push like this. Oh. And then it pulls back real smooth. So if I load them,
you can do it, but I can't. Okay, so I'm going to send
you. Just say pull in that, hopefully they're titled Then you can say,
they're titled well.
Pull up our Antarctic Treaty video or whatever. So maybe if you throw me like a Dropbox link or something in the chat.
Perfect. I think I'm just going to do, yeah, I got it. I'm going to do, where do I send it?
You can just drop a link right in the chat here. I'll go, hey, like this.
Oh, okay. You mean a link in chat? What do you mean link in chat? You mean
like a Dropbox?
Well, why don't I just send it via Telegram?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to do I don't know how to do Dropbox.
Telegram. I got Telegram right here. Go ahead. Do it on Telegram.
Okay, so I'm going to do Felix Baumgartner. I'm going to do no photos of Earth from space. And I'm going to do, we'll do curvature test 1 and curvature test 2 and the curvature formula. And I'm opening all of these, and I'm sorry for the size. I think it should be fine. And if it turns out that we can't use these, I can speak to them, and Nathan can obviously speak to them too. So
this one came as a, what the hell is this?
If one of them came as a JPEG, then I'm sorry.
No, it's a zip. I just want to see spread zip file.
You know what I can do, David? I have every ability to share my screen, and that's exactly what I'm going to do if needed.
Okay. Yeah, if you feel like it.
Just to let you know, though, StreamYard completely short circuits these problems.
Does it now? Okay.
It does. But it's good to have both, in my opinion, because sometimes one or the other will have server issues, as we discovered during a Twitter debate, a Twitter Files episode. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I know I've been using Restream just because I was used to it, and I just need to learn the StreamYard.
Okay. So we didn't kick Nathan out, did we?
No, he's here.
Oh, okay, sweet. I'm good to go. I bet you probably need to start the music.
We usually start it right at, so we're not starting it for 15.
Oh, okay. Well then.
Yeah, we usually start right at time.
Rock and roll. Do you think I can have like an opening statement?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I figured what we would do, and Nathan, if you're there, you let me know what you think. I'm just going to say hello to everybody, talk about how we're going to have a nice friendly debate about this subject, kind of a thing. I'll do my quick little intro. My intro is just going to be about who I am and my position. And then I'll pass it to you, Patrick, and then over to Nathan, and then around to Josh. Once we've done our little intro, and you let me know what you prefer to put in that intro, if you want to do like an opening statement or something like that, maybe we'll just try to keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes max per person. And then after that's done, nobody's going to interrupt each other. Also, we'll do our very best to be not running over each other. And then we'll just have a free flow at that point. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds perfect.
And Nathan, I didn't really hear you. Was that good for you?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. And then if you're like, oh, I want to share a video on that or whatever, because I have some stuff as well, we'll just keep batting the ball, and I'll try to make sure it's fair. And if I make a mistake, call me out, okay?
Perfect. I'm going to change myself to high definition. Okay.
And by the way, pleased to meet you, Patrick. I'm glad you're
pleased to meet you too.
I've been watching you read beautifully on John's podcast for so long. So
thank you.
Good to have you here.
Appreciate it. So hopefully I can get plenty of people in.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm
going there's lots of people coming.
I will promote this event, and I will see you presently.
Sounds good, man.
So, David, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, buddy.
How did this come about?
It was a demand from people in the chat of our previous shows, because Josh and I take a different position. And so they were like, you guys have to have someone on. We want to hear the debate. We want to hear the discussion. So I said, okay, fine, let's do it. So I just put I put like a message in the Badlands Media back chat. And I said, hey, is there any guys in our community that are into flat earth that want to come on and debate us about it? And Patrick's like, I'm your Huckleberry. I was like, all right, that's literally it.
So why you though? I mean, have you got a vested interest in the subject or something?
Well, I've had an immense curiosity. I've been following the subject very closely since 2014. I'm sort of I've gotten quite addicted to listening to flat Earth debates for the last few years and making my own observations and doing this research. So my vested interest is to state a different position and for the audience to have these claims on both sides spoken about under scrutiny from the other side, so that it's not just people dumping information without having any checks. You know what I'm saying? So I really just want to get the whole story out there so that in the end, people can watch this discussion and then come to their own conclusion. That's all I want to do.
And what's your position? I don't actually know anybody's position. So,
well, I'm going to state it in the show, but I do not agree at all with the flat Earth premise. I don't think that that's the case. I believe the Earth is spherical, and I believe there's many ways to prove it without relying on NASA or even complex science or mathematics.
You confident?
I'm very confident.
Okay.
I've done it myself. And I think it comes down to a debate about perspective and how people see the world. And so one thing I'd like to open up with, now that doesn't mean I'm going to come out and be like, flat Earth is bullshit. I'm not into that. I don't want it to be like a dumpster fire here, but I want to basically be like, here's the arguments to counter the claims that are being made, right? And then it's not up to me to say what the final result is. That's up to everybody watching. So, that's it. I just want to know the truth.
I see.
And I'm also very curious.
Cool. I asked if you're confident because you said, I believe there's plenty of proof.
Are you going to call me on every word, eh?
No, not at all. I don't know you, so I don't know how to take your timbre or your wording of things. So I'm just getting a gauge of that beforehand.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a fair one. No. Outside of being able to obviously see, because I believe flat Earth is unfalsifiable in many ways, right? Which is why there isn't really an actual flat Earth model. It's more of mostly an argument against the claims of science and the last 2,000 years of astronomy and all that stuff, right? So it's just a matter of analyzing it to see if there's anything there and offering the rebuttals that are out there and that we know of and see how they hold up. That's what science is. We're doing science right now. We're doing what they should have done with this vaccine, with all this other shit. So I'm with you guys. See, I'm different than your average, the average guys you guys usually debate, which come from a strict materialistic scientific worldview. I don't hold that view. So I agree with you guys on a lot of points. I agree that NASA is not the most trustworthy agency in the world, but I disagree that it's 100% lies. And I agree on many of the different conspiracies. That's actually my expertise. I've studied the world of the occult and the secret societies and history, alternative history, religion, philosophy, all these different things. So I'm definitely a conspiracy realist, and I understand that. But to me, that doesn't equate to the change in the shape of the planet. That's just my position.
But you'd say you're into science.
Yeah, I'm into it to agree. I'm no scientist. I'm no expert. I have no degrees. I was homeschooled. I'm self-taught. And I believe in the scientific method.
Okay, cool. That's a good start.
Science. Sorry?
That's a good start. What's the scientific method?
Well, to form a hypothesis, to observe, to make observations, and then to provide evidence for a theory or a thesis where other people can repeat the experiment, and that you present a model where you can actually make predictions that end up proving your observation to be true or false. So it's the process of forming a theory, bringing evidence against it to test it, and constantly remaining open if new evidence comes across your desk to change the result of that hypothesis.
They don't know what science is then?
Okay, you tell me then.
All right. So we're getting off to a bad start here.
No, I want him to do it, Patrick. Go ahead. Come on, let's go, Nathan. Tell me what science is.
Science is the establishment of cause and effect based on a naturally observed phenomena by way of formulation of a hypothesis. So hypothesis...
That's what I said. Observing phenomena,
my bad.
forming a hypothesis.
My bad. Do you not want to know?
Yeah.
Do you not want to know?
Sorry?
Do you not want to know?
Do I not want to know?
Yeah, I was in the middle of telling you.
Are you telling me that making observations with a hypothesis is not science?
Making observations with hypothesis. What's a hypothesis?
Or sorry, making observations in order to form a hypothesis.
What's
so
a
right
hypothesis then? You tell me.
It's a theory. It's you're
wrong.
going, okay, I want to know what the shape of the Earth is, so I'm going to make some tests.
It's wrong.
I'm going to make observations.
It's incorrect.
And I'm going to try to prove with data that I collect as to whether or not those observations actually line up with objective reality.
Yeah, I got that the first time. And I said, so you don't know what science is then? Then I started telling you.
Well, I'm telling you what I think science is.
It's wrong.
I'm not saying that the scientific institutions
It's wrong.
are all ponies and rainbows on that front.
Nathan,
but
okay.
Nathan, if I can.
It's the process of studying nature and trying to find out what the truth is about nature, trying to find out what the truth about reality really is. It's the investigative process.
Let me go ahead and just answer because David, I think you're obviously on the right track here. It is the establishment of cause and effect of a naturally occurring phenomenon by experimentation. So you form a hypothesis after you observe a natural phenomenon, and then your hypothesis is the independent variable, the thing that you think caused the phenomenon. And then the researcher goes about manipulating that independent variable in order to see if by that experiment he can cause the dependent variable, also known as the
phenomenon,
the observed phenomenon. So your description isn't exactly what the textbooks would say the scientific method is, but
I'm not here to talk about just the textbooks because I'm not a scientist. I don't have a PhD. I'm telling you what I think the process of truth is, especially when it relates to discovering what the shape of this planet is and what the nature of reality is, right?
Okay,
so
but you said you were into science.
Every time you investigate, okay, think of it as a crime scene. You're trying to solve a murder, right? You're going to observe the murder as the phenomena, then you're going to make a hypothesis about how you think the murder happened, and that's that whole process of gathering data, and then it's about eliminating what's not true in order to come to the only possibility left, which is the truth.
Okay, that's not science. So, that's not science. You don't know what science is. So I mean,
okay, that's
the bottom line.
Well, we're going to be very strict.
Okay, hold on. You asked me what I'm here to do, what I'm here to argue, and what I think the scientific method is, right?
Yeah, and you don't know what it is.
It's repeatable experiments observing a phenomena, right? So you have to have first a hypothesis, a theory. Like I'm trying to study how plants grow.
It's wrong,
right? You have to weigh evidence against that to see if your theory is correct, and if you bring the proper data forward.
Keep saying it. It's the third time you've said it.
You'll be able to. Are you going to keep interrupting me?
Because you keep saying it. You've said it. I've heard it 3 times, and you're wrong. I've heard it 3 times. You're saying that you're testing a theory. That's wrong. So I can hear it 4 times.
We're not going to test we're not going to test a theory.
It's wrong. It's incorrect.
Hey, Josh, we're already off.
What's up, man? I just heard about what is the theory. So let me ask the. I'm sorry. What was his name?
Nathan.
Nathan. How you doing, Nathan? I'm Josh. How we doing?
Nice to meet you, Josh. Good to be here.
Nice to meet you too.
He was asking me what the scientific method was, and he didn't like my answer.
It's just wrong.
What is the scientific method?
The scientific method is the establishment of cause and effect reasoning based on a naturally observed phenomena that you want to know what caused it. And that's done through the establishment of a hypothesis, which is a supposition of the cause of an effect you're studying in nature. Now, hypothesis.
So how did I not say that?
My bad.
Right.
A hypothesis has got 2 sides. One is the alternative, which is if A, then B. So if you vary A, you will cause B. B being the thing you're studying, the thing in nature you want to know the cause of. Now, it's also got something called
let me ask you this: How do you
test the
hypothesis?
It's also got a null, which is
how do you test the hypothesis?
That's what I was
well, if I could tell you what it was, maybe we could get to how I'm going to test it, but I haven't told you what it is yet. I'm in the middle of telling you.
You're here to test. You guys are here, and we're here to test each other's hypothesis.
You don't know what a hypothesis is? Okay, you tell me what a hypothesis is. I was halfway through telling you, and you asked me how we test it. You tell me what it is, given that I've just got halfway through telling you what it is.
No, I agree with you. I'm just.
I didn't finish telling you.
Okay, I guess you didn't.
I didn't finish. Yeah, no, I didn't. I was asked how we test it before I explained what it was.
Okay, guys, let me say something. If we're gonna, how are we gonna do this? Do we want this to be something that's gonna benefit the audience?
A shit show, or do we want it to be
because here's the question: Is the Earth the shape of a sphere, or is it a flat plane? Right? Like, what's the shape of the planet? So now we're both going to present evidence to back up what we think the answer is.
Okay, flat's not a shape.
The goal.
That's what we're here to do. We're not here to jump on every single word and try to dissect it and all that shit. Okay.
So this is what I really, really hope for this debate, Nathan, and I hope that you'll join me in that. Even when they say stuff that's wrong, that we regard as wrong, I'd like to let everybody finish. So we're gonna have opening statements, this, that, and the other. We're gonna err on the side of letting people finish sentences. And gentlemen, I really hope that goes for you as well.
100%.
I even noticed you guys kind of talking over each other. For the purposes of this, I would appreciate it if we could all just really work hard not to interrupt each other's sentences. And that really, really helps, because a lot of times the answer to your question is going to be at the end of what somebody is saying. So when Nathan was in the middle of explaining what a hypothesis is, he hadn't gotten to the end of what a hypothesis is before you asked him how you test a hypothesis. And the fact that you did that indicates to me that maybe you weren't really listening to what he said. So we're going to work real hard today to listen to each other and just really internalize what each other is saying. And we are all guilty of not doing that sometimes, myself included. But for the purposes of this, I really want us all, every last one of us, to not interrupt, if at all possible, all four of us. And that's it.
I agree, Patrick.
So,
and
so
let me
for
just
the
add
sake
one
of
thing,
time,
if I could.
go ahead, David.
Sorry, just one more thing. As another part of that, that means we can't go on long monologues where nobody gets to say anything, right? So to not, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Hypothesis.
So, ideally,
explanation of phenomena.
Gotcha. Ideally, repeating the same incorrect assertion about what science is 3 times through the top of me, that's not ideal.
Well, what science is? It's the explanation, right? It's how we try to rationalize and explain nature, natural phenomena.
Okay,
right?
guys, we're going to start the show now.
We got to start the show. Nathan,
let's start the show. There's a few minute little intro. So here's how it's going to go. I'm going to just open it up, say welcome everybody. And then we're going to, Josh, I just let everybody know I'm going to go to Patrick.
Are we bringing Nathan in?
Yep. Nathan,
he'll be in. He's just off cam right now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm going to go Patrick, opening statement, introduction. Then I'm going to go Nathan. Then I'm going to go you. And then we're going to have a free flow, and God help us all. Sound good? Okay, here we go. All right, here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Earth Chronicles. This is episode 6, and we are doing it. We're going there, guys. We are going to have a debate about flat Earth, the shape of the planet, and all that good stuff. It is by popular demand, and this is why we're doing it. And we're hoping to have a very interesting, fun, and polite discussion about this subject. And I would like to really thank everybody for being here. Thanks for sharing this out. And I just want to say real quick, first of all, my name is David. If you haven't seen my work, you can find all my work at dwtruthwarrior.com. And we are going to be talking about a subject that I've been curious about since around 2014. I've been following this for many years now, collecting arguments, listening to debates, doing my own observations, and just thinking about it. And I'd like to see what the other opinions are about this. And so I'm really happy to be here. And I think what we're going to do for this is we're going to go around and do a little introduction, sort of an opening statement, stating our positions. And then we're going to have a free flow, and we're going to do our very best to bring concise arguments to you, the audience, so that you can make up your own mind. I'm not a person that likes to say we have to make declarative statements on any of this stuff. I have my opinion. My guests here have their opinions, and you watching have your opinions. And we're all trying to learn together. And the hope here is that when we compare notes, we can keep a good, peaceful dialogue about these subjects so that we can get to the truth, because that's really all that matters in the end. That's the goal. And so I'm really excited for this. This is going to be great. So I'd like to open up first by passing this over to Patrick. I'm honored to have him here. He's a real staple on this network. I'd like to thank Badlands Media, of course, for hosting this and bringing us all here. And Patrick, I've been following you for a while, doing some great work with John, great work on your own podcast. And so welcome to Earth Chronicles, man. Open it up.
Thank you so much, David. Josh, nice to meet you as well. Nathan, nice to have you in the corner there, and been watching your work forever now. And so it's nice to finally be broadcasting right alongside you. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Patrick Gunnels, and I'm a warrior in the truth war. And I started pretty much right after the election of Donald J. Trump, when I discovered that things didn't quite make sense in how our institutions were behaving. And eventually, after uncovering enough lies from my own institutions, whether they be the educational system, whether they're the media, and a million different other things, I made a commitment to myself that I was only going to accept things that I could verify for myself. And that took me on quite a journey. And then it took me to the heliocentric model. And I learned that the heliocentric model is essentially the most successful religion in world history. And it started whenever it started, but when it was started, it was based on a few cosmological precepts. One, that we live on a sphere of roughly 3,959 statute miles. That sphere is rotating at the equator at approximately a speed of 1,037 miles per hour. And third, that the sky above us is a vacuum. And those three precepts are something that I was never, under any circumstances, no matter how hard I tried, able to find any verifiable evidence that I myself could determine. Not one single thing. We weren't able to find any curvature. We weren't able to find any evidence for axial rotation. We weren't able to find any evidence that you could have this air that we breathe immediately adjacent to a vacuum. None of those things are possible. The third thing is something that we can simply disprove by taking a big, deep breath. Because if the sky were immediately adjacent to a vacuum, the air that we breathe would fill that limitless volume of space that we're told is up there, and we would all be dead or never have existed in the first place. There would be things that we would be able to see in our own world if we were rotating at a speed of 1,037 miles per hour at the equator. And finally, every distance to horizon on a sphere of radius 3,959 miles, by simple trigonometric math that you can do yourself on a piece of paper, you would find that any distance to horizon on a sphere of that size could be no more than 1.225 miles times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And I thought maybe they were faking this, so I did the math myself. It is 100% unverifiable. And every single time that a black swan type photo that showed massive distance over water that could not possibly have any convexity, the answer was always, well, the curvature is not shown here because it's hidden by refraction or this reason or that reason. It's like the child with an imaginary friend who says, I know that my imaginary friend is there. And when you say, well, I don't see him, you say, well, he hid in the corner, or, oh, he ran away. And that is the way that the globe defenders appear to behave when asked, why do we find no curvature? And then after that, as you go through the increasing absurdity of the heliocentric religion, you realize this is just another massive, massive lie that we're all guilty of. And it makes us doubt our senses. It separates us from God. It is the alpha hoax. It's the hoax that made all the other hoaxes possible. And I want to get into the details of why we think these things and how we can possibly extricate ourselves from the grip of this delusion. Thank you.
It was a really well done opening statement. Right before we go to you, Nathan, we got a super chat from Patel Patriot. And that's why I was laughing. By the way, I wasn't laughing at Patrick. I just thought it was funny what John's saying here. He goes, okay, new Badlands project. We're buying a spaceship to figure out for ourselves once and for all. Also, peaceful debates aren't as entertaining. Take the gloves off, boys. $50.
John, you don't
Thanks,
know what
John.
you're asking for. Thanks, John.
All right. Well, let's go over to Nathan. Go ahead with your intro, Nathan.
I haven't prepared an intro, so I'm Nathan Oakley. I run a show called Flat Earth Debate on YouTube, which runs daily, and you can join at 2 p.m. UK time to debate the nature of Earth. And I've spent the last 4 or 5 years running that show, debating with people who have a misapprehension about what science is and a general misapprehension that they have scientific evidence to prove that they're on a sphere-shaped model, which is definitely not the case. So yeah, that's my bag in a nutshell. I've not got a great deal to say for an intro, other than subscribe to me at Nathan Oakley 1980, and you can see the Flat Earth Debate, or even join if you felt so passionate as the super chatter just did, suggest that rockets can traverse gas pressure, go into an area of volume to take a picture of an Earth as a sphere, and yet the gas which expands in all directions to fill the volume it has available to it isn't expanding into the area that the rocket's going into to take a picture. Those are the sort of things you can hear on Flat Earth Debate on a daily basis. So we run a live public debate on Nathan Oakley 1980. So pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Very cool.
All right. Well done. Well, there's only one way to find out. Josh, go ahead, bro.
Josh Reed with redpills.tv, and I'm here just for the tea. So no, I am. I believe that the Earth is an oblate spheroid. I've had discussions with Flat Earth Dave before. I've had discussions with many different flat earthers before. And, what we're here to do is find out the truth. And I think that there's certain mechanisms within our society that allow us to observe nature and the phenomena that occur. And we can take those and make hypotheses. We can generate theories from those hypotheses. And through observable phenomena and through repeating this process over and over and over and coming up with the same results, we can determine what is real or consistent in our universe and our reality and what is not. And I think that if we weigh those, we can come to the determination that the Earth is not flat and that the Earth is round, or an oblate spheroid. But I guess we're up for a discussion and interpretation. And so let's start it. Let's begin. This will be fun.
Very good, very good. Well, and my intro real quick, well, I kind of did one, but I just wanted to say a thank you to Flat Earth because my idea is that there's only the best way to learn about something is to learn about its opposite, to have ideas that challenge your worldview, that make you question what you think you know, and that it's helped me learn more about astronomy, about the nature of the planet, and has actually inspired me to learn more about it. So that's my little olive branch over to the Flat Earth community. I also want to say that I appreciate you guys because of the fact that you're challenging a very powerful paradigm in the world where the scientific institutions, as we've just experienced in the last 3 years, need to be questioned, need to be had their feet held to the fire. And we don't have to have all these PhDs and all these degrees and be part of these major institutions in order to be able to do our own investigation, do our own science. I think it's straight in many ways from the original scientific method at the institutional level. But that being said, I still hold the view that we live on a spherical planet and that we are not or that we actually, there is such thing as space, and we live in an infinite universe, or somewhat infinite. We don't really know, but I think there's more to everything than meets the eye. So relying only on your singular senses without any kind of equipment or any kind of research, it can be limiting. That's just where I'm at. But let's see if these guys can convince me otherwise. So let's just go for it, guys. Maybe Patrick, over to you. What point? Well, we did discuss, actually. Let me know if you're okay with this. In our chat, I had asked it would be a good place to start with motive, because we want to try to establish the motive behind, or at least speculate on the motive as to why this conspiracy would be in play.
No.
You're shaking your head, so you disagree?
No,
Go ahead.
Absolutely not. We have scientific evidence to examine here. Why liars lie is real. I mean, I'm an educated man, but why the people who control this world have decided to deceive us is something that we could speculate on all day. Nathan and I may talk about that once in a while, but we're just spitballing. What we do know is that there is no evidence of curvature. We do know that there is no evidence of axial rotation. And we do know that the second law of thermodynamics makes it impossible for the sky to be a vacuum. So I'll ask you a question just to see if we can get this started. Do you have any evidence that the horizon is actually the curve of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You asking David or me?
I'm asking
Let's
David.
put it out there. Let's put it out there. Josh, how about you go first? I've got something here I'll pull up, but have you done your own observations? Maybe you should tell them your background in the Navy.
Yeah, I was in the U.S. Navy for 10 years. I've sailed the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean to South Pacific, been all around this world on the oceans. I got a few of my old shipmates actually watching right now. The horizon that you see on the ocean is going to be a little bit, I guess, further away than the horizon you're. No, you're not looking at the curvature. And the reason you're not looking at the curvature is because the Earth is really big. And I hate to go to like that Professor Dave dude's kind of way he says that the Earth is really big. Is typically you have every 75 miles is you're going to have 1 degree of curvature, right? Can we agree on that? Every 75 miles on a curved Earth, every 75 miles you're going to have 1 degree of curvature.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, well, how about this? Then how do you measure curvature?
That's your claim.
No. How does flat earthers say that there's no curvature through this measurement?
But your claim that, okay, you have a claim that there's curvature, and Patrick's asked, where's your proof that the horizon's curvature? And you've said it isn't, and then you've given up this measurement.
No. What I was trying to say is that when you're looking out there, the curvature is so...
My bad. So you've said that there's curvature at a certain distance, and you've given us some mathematics for that curvature.
He asked me the
my
question.
bad, still in the middle of the same sentence. My bad, still in the middle of the same sentence. My bad.
All right, finish the sentence, Nathan, but keep it short.
I would if I was allowed to. I'm just not allowed to.
Go ahead. You're fine. We're not in an aggressive platform here. We're very
You've just spoken through me 3 times. Three times you've spoken through me. Don't tell me you're not aggressive when you've just spoken through me 3 times. I'll try and finish the same sentence. Still trying to finish the same sentence. That's 4 times. Not an aggressive platform, but you've consistently talking through me. Consistently. That's 4 times. 4 times.
Go ahead.
Don't need to be told to go ahead. Just need to be let to go ahead without you talking through me a 5th time. So you've rattled off some numbers.
No, here. Go ahead.
Doesn't seem like I'm getting an opportunity to talk.
And go.
I don't need permission. I just need the people who are interrupting me to not do that. 6th attempt. You've rattled off some numbers for where Earth curve is. Now, given that you're the one in the affirmative position for Earth curve, I'd expect you to know the mathematics for Earth curve. I know them, and Patrick knows them. He even stated them about 3 minutes ago. 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So it's not a set distance, as you stated. It seems you don't know your own mathematics. So that's not a good start, given it's your affirmative position. I'm not going to be telling you, on your demand, how flat earthers say it doesn't work when you don't know the positive claim for it. You should know. It's your claim.
Okay. So 1.22 times the observer's height. Where does this formula
No, that's wrong.
Okay. Well, what you just said there. So, Patrick, what was the formula that you had said?
I just gave it you. 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet.
Let Patrick talk. Let Patrick talk. You're interrupting him.
Why? I was giving you the answer and you didn't repeat it back. Is it that you don't want to communicate with me?
You.
I've given it you.
Dude,
you haven't repeated it back and you've thrown it to Patrick.
If we keep on with this. You told me Patrick said it, so I went back to Patrick to get what he was saying. Okay? Patrick, can you please tell me the formula that you guys use and that where this came from?
On a sphere of radius 3,959 miles, any distance to horizon can be no more than 1.225 miles times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That is not 1 degree for every 75 miles.
So, but where did that come from? I'm just curious where that formulation came from.
Didn't you know?
I will explain.
Thank you.
I will explain. Okay. You take a cross section, the largest cross section of that sphere, and then you draw a radius going all the way to the surface. Then you draw a right triangle out. And then all you have to do is use 3959 as the radius, and then the height of the pointy end of that right triangle then has the height over the surface of the Earth. What that height is determines how tall the object must be for you to be able to see it from the distance of that first leg of that triangle. I even have a chart that's like made by Globe Math.
Cool. Yeah, pull it up. I'd like to see it.
All right, one moment.
Why? Why are we doing this? This is your claim. Aren't we here to defend Flat Earth? Why are we having to make your claim for you?
Well, because...
That is a good point.
Well, because what I'm trying to say is that I haven't heard that formula before. The formula that I have for measuring the curvature of the Earth is completely different. I remember when I was on a different show with another flat earther, and they told me that I think it's for 1 mile, you have 8 inches of drop that you should have, or 8 inches of drop, something of that nature. And
it's important. It would be important to know. So
absolutely.
So let me give you the
Mm-hmm.
If you were to reverse the algebra, then you could make it that the curvature over any given distance d in miles is 2/3 of a foot, or 8 inches, times the miles times the miles. So over 1 mile, the curvature would be 1 times 1, which is 1, times 8 inches. 8 inches of curvature over 1 mile.
Mm-hmm.
Over 2 miles, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 8 inches, 32 inches. And that math gets worse and worse as the number of miles increases.
Right.
There is a website called the Distance to Horizon Calculator. So it does all the math for you, and it does the math correctly. You know, Nathan refers to it as the, well, what do you call the?
I call it the begging the question.
Calculator?
Begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. This is the 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. This is your claim of Earth curve at the horizon.
No, that's not, that formula is not my claim of curvature.
Yeah, it is. That's the claim of Earth curvature.
The claim.
No, that's not my claim.
Sorry, are we debating you?
Listen, Nathan, you're putting words into my mouth.
That's the claim of Earth curve.
Stop trying to straw man this argument here.
It's like telling a Christian that they don't believe in Jesus. That's Earth curve. That's your maths for Earth curve. You don't have to like it. It's yours.
No, because what we're actually talking about when you're talking about the curvature of the Earth is what I'm seeing here is that you guys are looking at a horizontal plane and expecting this horizontal plane to have a certain curvature at the end. But what we're really talking about is an arc over this distance over time. Yes, that's what we're talking about in the sense of Earth. And if you measure this correctly, you should see about 1 degree for the 3,900 mile radius of the Earth, about 1 degree of curvature every 75 miles. The Earth is very, very large. And so when we're looking at something going over the horizon and it begins to disappear, the reason we're seeing this is because it's not going over it's not going over 1% of the Earth's curve right there. It's going over a very small, minute portion of that. This is why we can see longer distances in some things, because we have atmospheric conditions that present themselves.
Sorry, that made no sense whatsoever. Meanwhile, you have laid down in... My bad, I was only replying for 10 seconds. What you said made absolutely no sense. It's not my claim, but I understand not yours, the globe claim, and that is not it. So you don't understand. I don't know why I'm here. You don't know.
What's the formula?
My bad. My bad.
What is the formula?
My bad.
Nathan,
my bad. I'm in the middle of a sentence.
And you've already interrupted me 3 times.
Have I? I waited for a gap. You're in the middle of talking through me, and you're accusing me of talking through you. I'm still in the middle of my sentence.
Do you know?
So far, every single time I've spoken on this show, you have spoken through me. So, given that our opponent, Patrick, doesn't know their own claim and has just laid down the most nonsensical, incorrect nonsense about how Earth curve maths works, I don't really know what I'm doing here. He doesn't know his own claim, and he's claiming that I'm talking through him while I'm refuting the total nonsense he just spewed about Earth curve maths, which is incorrect, not right, wrong.
Can I share this screen? All right, so let me see if can I share this one?
Just telling them you're incorrect doesn't mean they're incorrect.
Meanwhile, all we've done so far is debate their inability to understand their own bloody claim. We've not got to any flat Earth yet. We're having to babysit them through baby steps of their own bloody claim they don't know.
Oh, come on.
You don't know your own claim.
I'm telling you that the way that you're saying that curvature exists is not.
I'm not. That's your claim. Stop telling me that's how I'm saying curvature exists. It's your claim.
This is what you are literally saying. Globe Earthers calculate curvature this way.
That's correct.
No, globe Earthers calculate it a different way.
Do they? Show us. Citation, please.
The arc.
Citation, please.
Time.
Citation.
There you go. Look, dude, you're doing the same thing that
You're saying it. I heard the first time. I heard the maths the first time that was wrong. Now you're saying that's how Globe Earth Maths does it. Citation, please. Show me it.
David, what do we got here?
Show me it. Citation, please.
I just pulled up what Patrick put on the screen. This is from Patrick.
It's Globe Earth Maths. I know the Globe Earth Maths. I want him to cite the nonsense he's just told me I'm wrong to incorrectly. According to him, correct him on.
No, I want to hear the argument. So, Patrick, take it away.
All right. Josh, claiming that only 1 degree of curvature takes place every 75 miles is simply mathematically incorrect.
Okay.
The curvature of the Earth increases exponentially as the distance gets further. And by the way, this is a globe claim, okay? The statute mile distance around the equator is 24,901, which would give you a radius of the Earth of 3,959 miles.
Right.
This is geometry, okay? This is not something that's disputable. It means, and I actually did the Taylor series at the end of this myself on paper. All you have to do is take the distance that the object is from you, square that distance in miles, and multiply it by 2/3. And that's the number of feet of curvature that should be blocking your view to that object. So after 10 miles, you take 100, because that's 10 times 10. You take 2/3 of that, and that's 66, and that's how many feet that would be blocking something that was 100 miles distant. All right?
I understand what you're saying, Patrick. Go ahead.
All right. Now, we do not observe that on the water at all.
You're right, and we don't observe that on a curved Earth either. The reason we don't observe that on a curved Earth is because what you're looking at there, that O, that horizontal line using trigonometry, is a horizontal plane. We're actually measuring the arc of Earth, not the horizontal plane of Earth. Does that make sense? Is that when we're looking straight out, there's slight variations of curve over time, but then you also have aspects of altitude, change in topography, and everything else that comes about in this. But if you wanted to take the whole Earth in perspective, what we're talking about is a measurement of arc, because that's how you're going to get to a sphere.
I'm literally measuring arc. The actual arc is generated by the angle theta created with the original radius to the center of the Earth.
May I, Patrick?
And then you take that. What's that?
May I? You don't know your own claim.
Nathan, I'm going to grab a glass of water.
Yeah, you don't know your own claim, guys. So how are we going to take apart your claim if you don't know it and you're denying it? We've just spent the last 10 minutes going through your globe claim that you don't know. Now, if I may, can I prove to you Earth's flat? Given that we've just spent the last 10 minutes going through your own bloody claim of a globe Earth you don't know.
Please prove it.
Please, thank you.
Let's see the proof.
I can spend 10 minutes uninterrupted not proving your own claim you don't know to you and actually proving our Earth's flat to you. Excellent. You said you were in the Navy. Know any navigators in the audience?
Say that again?
Navigators from the Navy days?
Probably 1 or 2, yeah.
Excellent. Do they know what an elevation angle measurement is? How about you? Do you know what an elevation angle is?
Well, I would assume that it's an angle at elevation.
No, it's an angle measurement from a baseline to a star to acquire its GP for navigation.
Oh, okay. Right. Gotcha. Go ahead.
So you know about celestial navigation then, being in the Navy?
A little bit. Today we don't use much of celestial navigation to navigate through the waters of the ocean, if you can imagine.
You don't think people go out on the water with sextants and they don't have them as a backup on aeroplanes? You don't think that's the case?
Oh, no, they absolutely do.
Yes, that's right, they do. So we're aware of celestial navigation then. Angle measurements can only take place on a flat Earth. Further to this, all of the models and maps, including the globe, are derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. Your latitude lines on the maps are lines drawn out based on areas of equal elevation. That's a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris. And all celestial navigation is done with angles. You can't acquire an elevation angle from a curved surface. You take an elevation angle measurement from the plane of the Earth, and you take it with reference to the horizon or a spirit level in a sextant. That's because all lines along the ground are referenced to 0, sea level. And that's because elevation angle measurements can only be done on a flat plane. I thank you.
Okay, and so, but we're talking about to our horizon, which the amount of curvature from one point to the horizon is insignificant.
No, it's 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet.
No, that was according to you, that was globe.
That's according to Globe, not according to me, according to you. That's your claim. You don't know. You keep telling me it's my claim. It isn't.
Did I say that was my claim? Anybody here? Did I say that was my claim?
It is the Globe claim you don't know. So you're saying it's not yours because you don't know it. Your ignorance does not. Your ignorance doesn't alter what the Globe claims. My bad. I know it must be painful me pointing out your ignorance.
Okay, relax. Josh,
no,
can you talk about, I'm going to let you describe what you mean when you're talking about how to measure the curvature of the earth. So give your claim. Like, we're not here, Nathan. No, Nathan, you're here to debate me and Josh, not other people, not some, I want to hear what Josh would say to this. Let's just let him respond.
Okay. To measure the curvature of the earth, we're talking about how the earth is curving over distance, over time. Now, as Patrick pointed out, the earth is incredibly large. You did. You said it was, what, 24,000 miles in circumference. We're talking about 3,900 miles in radius. It's incredibly large.
No, it's not. I don't think that's very large, but I said it was 24,901 statute miles around the equator. I didn't characterize that in any other way than quantitatively.
Okay. Well, quantitatively, I look at that as fairly large.
That's wonderful. Please continue.
Okay. I look at that as incredibly large, especially when we're an insignificant little speck on this planet.
That begging the question fallacy.
Okay. So when you guys are explaining what globe earthers pertain to as the formula used, and I know Patrick just said that, yes, but he's talking about the curvature is computed there through theta. I understand that. That's what you said, Patrick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. There's other aspects, more accurate aspects of which they use to do that. There is R over RE over K, which takes the hidden height, measures that through the radius of the curved light over the cosine of S over R. I got the formula right here, okay? It's a complex formula to measure the curvature of the earth. And we can get into the mathematics, we can get into the science aspects of this as well, right?
Please.
I don't think we need to. Here's the thing.
Why not? You're disputing my claim.
I'm saying that the claim that you're using as the formula is not what I would use to calculate the curvature of the earth.
Then what formula would you use?
What I would use is this one right here that I have. But this is what I'm trying to say. Through observational phenomena, I can understand your perspective, right? But let me ask you this. If I got onto the ocean, I left San Diego, and I went due west, okay? When can I expect to see Earth's curvature? If it was curved, right? I'm saying that happens 1 degree of curvature every 75 miles, but it's not negligent in the sense that that's your opinion, okay? But I'm saying is that you should...
reality.
Okay, sure. What I'm trying to say, though, is that if I'm traveling along that 75-mile long line, 1 degree of curvature on a Earth that I look at as incredibly large, 24,000 miles in circumference, is negligible.
Are you saying you'll never see the curvature?
Through an observation of moving west from a point on the ocean? No.
So what evidence?
You have observable phenomena from that.
All right. Fair enough. Then let's go back to my original question.
Mm-hmm.
What evidence do you have that the horizon is caused by the curvature of a presupposed spherical Earth?
It's kind of nothing against you, Patrick, but the question kind of doesn't really draw context. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of it, but what evidence do I have that the curvature is caused by the horizon of the planet? Let me ask you this, I guess. Let me ask a question.
Okay.
How do you perceive the Earth to be flat through the observation of the horizon?
So what you're saying is you'd like me to prove that the Earth is flat rather than me
No,
ask
I don't want you to prove. I want to know your thoughts and opinions. If the sun is coming over the horizon, okay,
Over the horizon.
through this observation of that phenomena, because I mean, we were talking about this before the show.
We're
talking about observational data, right? So empirical data, empirical evidence, things that happen within the phenomena of nature. We observe them. We take notes. We record them. We draw hypotheses. We test those hypotheses. We develop theories. Theories are built upon repeatable experimental phenomena over and over again, right? And we try to draw conclusions from that.
Answer him, Patrick.
So from observing the sun rising every day, setting every day, what can we determine from that brings about the idea that the Earth is flat, non-rotating?
Nathan, why don't you take this?
Perfect. Okay, so we're moving past the assertion that Earth has a physical geometric limitation blocking boats and buildings with a measurable value in the Earth curve maths to it being our burden to prove what the horizon is and how it proves Earth flat. No problem. If you're on a boat at sea, you have a tool called a sextant. It's a tool for measuring angles. What you will do with this tool is point it at the horizon to establish a horizontal plane of reference. That's a flat Earth. Now that line that you establish as horizontal with this tool that measures angles called a sextant, you will establish that horizontal baseline with the horizon, horizontal, as the name suggests, out beyond the horizon to the GP, that's ground position of a star that you're measuring the angle to. Now the GP is the position directly below the star, which would be to say that if you were at that position on Earth, the star would be at your zenith, directly above your head. Now, that means that when you measured, using the horizon, the angle to the star, you established Earth as a horizontal plane of reference, because it can only be a horizontal plane of reference to get an angle from it. That's what an angle is, two straight lines, not one curved line and one straight line. So in order to perform celestial navigation on a boat, you need the horizon to establish the ground as flat to measure an angle. Hope that answers your question.
It's important to note that we did just reverse the burden of proof. I still am asking for any evidence that the horizon is created by the curvature of a presupposed spherical Earth.
Right. And then I try to explain this, and you guys, and he was obviously trying to straw arm me. I was trying to say is that when we look at the horizon, we're not going to see curvature because at those distances, it's negligible. Because you need longer, greater distances to begin to see even 1% of the curve of the Earth. That's what I said. And you guys keep on, and he kept on going back to that same argument.
Okay.
Just mathematically false.
Just a quick question.
Okay, real quick. I got a super chat. I just want to read out real quick. It's actually related to this. It comes from SEV Gibson, $10. Thanks, man. He says, Nathan and Patrick are not listening. Josh is talking about an arc distance of 75 miles, not a plane distance. You need to back up and listen to Josh's actual claim instead of framing his belief.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about an arc distance. That's the measurement of an angle. An arc? The arc through the sextant?
The measurement of a curved Earth, an angle.
No, I hadn't finished my sentence. I'm being told I'm not listening, and then I get about 30 seconds through a sentence,
you're obviously
and someone else starts talking straight through me.
Let me show a video real quick, because this video will explain what we're talking about here, okay?
My bad.
Is that okay, David? Can we show a video?
Not okay to address anything you've said? No? Clearly not.
Okay, how about address it while I'm loading it up? Josh, go ahead and share the screen.
How do I disable camera?
So just go share screen, and then...
I don't have a share screen.
Josh, while you're loading that up, you said you don't appreciate that the horizon's supposed to be Earth curve. So have you never heard that boats go over the Earth curve, or that Chicago's blocked by Earth curve at the horizon? You've never heard those statements?
Have you ever seen the blink test videos where they show it actually does lose the bottom of the buildings
at the horizon?
Lake Ontario.
So you're affirming that Josh does know that the horizon's claimed to be Earth curve now because he's spent 20
I'm not talking about Josh. I'm just asking you. Like, have you seen those blink tests? You know what I'm talking about?
So we have this right here. I want to just play this video if we can.
Sure. Go ahead and share that, Josh, and here we go. All right.
Okay. So why does the Earth look flat from the surface? And if you pull that up yet, Dave, I can't. I'm frozen on this end.
Yeah, for some reason your connection just dropped low, Josh. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I can see it on the screen. So yeah, you go ahead and push play.
Okay, I'm going to hit play.
Is this a cartoon? It's a cartoon.
It's a model.
We don't live on a model.
You're showing me a cartoon, dude. I'm going to get some water.
Hey, do you want to tell us what the point of this is?
Okay. Thank you, David. So what that's showing you is the aspect ratio of how we are on Earth and things are getting larger and bigger, mountains, buildings, these types of things. And that at 100 kilometers, the curve of the Earth is negligible because it's a little over 1% of the actual curve of 360 degrees of angle. And I think that Nathan even said it there, but you're measuring an angle. Yes, we're measuring the curve of the Earth. That's the point. And that's what my whole argument was in the beginning, is that when we're looking at the reason a sextant works, is he's saying that we're utilizing a sextant to measure on a horizontal plane. Absolutely, because at those short distances, 8, 10, 16 nautical miles, when we're talking about the horizon, the curvature of the Earth is negligible. It's not observed. This is what I was trying to say. So
sorry, Josh, just pause for a sec. Are these guys even listening to you right now?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Are they? I thought they were.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening,
Okay.
but every time I try and talk, I get told that I'm talking through you. That's what happens, kind of like now. So, I mean, I'll try and respond to some of the stuff, the many things that you've said, but there's a good chance that even though I've only just literally started speaking, I can hear someone else's voice talking straight through the top of me. It seems that every single time I talk, I'm going to get someone else talking straight through the top of me, no matter what I say.
Unreal.
So why shouldn't I check out, turn the camera off, and just do my own thing? Because every single time I've talked so far, someone started talking in the middle of my sentence. Literally every time.
You've interrupted a few people too, and you got a bit of I don't know, you got some kind of big chip on your shoulder. I don't know what's going on.
An ad hominem attack.
Why don't you just listen to the argument and counter it and just be a civil, normal human being instead of being a complete dick?
That's another ad hominem attack.
It is an ad hominem, and it's directed directly at you, buddy.
So you can't address my argument about elevation angle measurements being taken from a flat surface, and instead you'll talk through me and use personal attacks. Excellent debating tactics.
Personal attacks. Are you going to be okay? You going to survive
I
this?
would like to actually make a statement without you ad homing me in the middle of the statement and accusing me of talking through you. So am I checking out of the conversation, or am I interrupting you? Which is it?
So early. We're only 43 minutes in.
Right. So maybe address my statement about measuring elevation angle measurements from a flat baseline.
Josh.
What was it? What was the statement? I'm sorry.
You have to acquire an elevation angle measurement from a flat baseline if you're navigating, getting in nautical miles. How'd you get a nautical mile?
What are we arguing here?
You said nautical miles. I'm asking if you know what you're talking about.
Right. Miles over ocean, miles over water, right? Miles over curvature.
What is it?
What's a nautical mile?
What's a nautical mile?
I think a nautical mile is 1.073 miles.
What? No.
Am I correct?
How's it acquired?
Let me check the measurement.
How's it acquired? Let's see.
Why don't you tell me?
You're the one who claimed it, so you don't know what you're talking about. But it's necessary to call me a dick and the audience to think I'm not listening to you. I've listened to your
argument. Not because of your argument.
Again, I'm in the middle of talking and someone is immediately talking through me. Why? Because I'm a dick? Is this me being a dick being talked through? I'm still talking. I listened to you, now trying to respond to all the stuff you've said. You've talked non-stop for 45 minutes. I've had about 3. So, you've mentioned repeatedly, this is about science. So what science have you got for a globe Earth?
Okay, let's backtrack because you just asked me what a nautical mile was. I said it's a mile as determined over the ocean, or we can say air or whatever. It's 1,852 meters, just a little bit bigger than a regular mile. Okay, so anyways, what I'm trying to say here is that the curvature of the Earth, and I think we need to move on from the curvature of the Earth part, Well, no, because
I
Nathan,
got
everything
more
that
on
you've
this. I'm just
said has
waiting for this
basically
to settle, and then I'll show you some stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Go
Well,
ahead,
how about
finish
this?
up.
Let's just move on from this argument. We can just talk to this as a null point. And Patrick, no, seriously, jump in if you want to. If you want to explain,
I would like to. I would like to jump in. I'd like to say, first of all, I don't know how long you guys have been looking into this. Okay, but this is a question of geometry. This is not a question of anything other than, can you draw a circle on a piece of paper, stick a triangle on it, figure out the trig, and you'll know after you work a Taylor series at the end, just to expand the trigonometric function, you'll know that the curvature of the Earth over distance x is 8 inches times x squared, period. It is not 1 degree for every 75 miles. And so I really want to, this is settled upon. The globe people agree with this. They just say refraction is what hides the curve.
Good, David.
All right. What about, so earlier, Patrick, you had some issues with Josh showing you what you call the cartoon, which was just a model to try to give some perspective on what's being said, right? Yet now we're talking about drawing circles on a piece of paper, right? And so what I'm asking is, what kind of observable experiments that you can point to in reality? Like, let's get off YouTube and off the papers and all that for a minute and just talk about observing reality. Because I'm not sure if you've become aware of this. I'm sure you guys are aware of this. It's a place called Lake Pontchartrain. It's the transmission lines in Louisiana, United States. Anybody can go here and do this. Now, this is not my picture, but I've had friends of mine actually go and repeat this experiment. There's actually a few places that you can do this. And a real quick explanation is it's essentially a causeway. This image was done originally by a YouTuber named Soundly. So anybody that's interested in following up on all of this, if you go on YouTube, you look up Soundly, there's tons of videos talking about all of this. And this image was virtually modeled on a spherical Earth with a circumference of 40,000 kilometers. The model made a prediction that if zoomed in at the specific height, what we should see. This image is what the model showed. And when this shot was done in reality, that's exactly what you see. So what they did was they created a model, they made predictions, and when they went with a Nikon P1000 camera, which is one of the favorite cameras that flat earthers like to say is the best for zoom capabilities, they went and they actually saw the effects of their model and their prediction in actual reality. So the bridge, it shows right here. You got 24.27 kilometers, which is 15 miles across. At least that's what you can see. And if the Earth was flat, the vanishing point should intersect the horizon line. But in reality, the vanishing point is above the horizon line.
Nathan,
so,
let me take a crack at this first before you jump in. I'm sorry, David. Did I interrupt you?
No, you didn't.
You got an echo though.
Okay, I'm getting a bad echo.
Oh, maybe if you're not talking, everybody mute. That'll fix that.
Okay. It's really bad. The question is it my fault? All right. Anyway.
I'm not hearing any on my end.
A little bit. So there's a fallacy called the affirming the consequent fallacy. So we're gonna start off. I'm not going to address this picture that you're showing me just yet. But when I talk about the rule of geometry, and by the way, I did the geometry because we're told that the Earth is a ball of radius 3959 miles. Okay, and so just doing trig, you'll know that the distance to horizon can be no more than 1.225 times the square root of 1.225 miles times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Okay, now all horizons can be no bigger than that on a sphere of those dimensions. This is mathematically verifiable. So it's all of them. So if you have one instance where it matches up with where the globe would expect that horizon to be, that's one instance. That's it's a claim. All swans are white. How many black swans do you need to falsify the claim that all swans are white? Just one black swan. It's a Popper's razor. And so the Lake Pontchartrain, whatever it happens to show, I can show 100 different cases where the horizon is incredibly further, is way more distant than a sphere of those dimensions would allow. You have to get through that. That's a huge problem for the globe. And I'd like
which ones can you show? Just show.
Okay.
And I just need to know the conditions of the environment during that day? What was the cloud conditions, all of that? And we would need to know what kind of camera was used. And we need to know, was it zoomed in? How, like, there's certain things we'd need to know if those experiments are accurate.
No
we'd also need to.
Would it be safe to say that clouds and atmospheric haze would make it harder to see a great distance rather than easier?
Like you were talking like cloudy day, it's obscuring the horizon. Of course.
A cloudy day would make it harder to see. You would see less far on a cloudy day, and you would see further on a clear day.
And you can see even better on some other days where the atmospheric conditions allow for that.
Atmo, what now?
Okay. And really quickly, just before you go there, this experiment was done over a 10-day period where it changed dramatically the weather throughout that time. And many people have gone since, soundly released this, and have confirmed this as well and posted their results. So the question would be, maybe we can ask John if we can, instead of chartering calling Tesla and chartering a rocket out of the planet, we could just go to Louisiana and we can go into the Marriott Hotel right across from the causeway. And we can all get our cameras the way we think they should be set up and whatever camera we want. And we do a repeatable experiment over a 10-day period to bring that into account for changes in the atmosphere, the cloud, the fog, and how perspective can be affected by that, and see if we still get the same results. Go ahead,
Hello?
Nathan.
Hi.
Oh, wait, hold on. There you go.
So just wanted to double check something with Josh. So given that your co-host is now asking us to explain away the horizon in the Lake Pontchartrain image based on the maths that we laid down at the beginning of the show that you denied, and you said that we wouldn't be able to see Earth curve at the horizon, Josh. So are we now arguing for the horizon in the Lake Pontchartrain image at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as per the model and the maths that you denied? Or is that horizon not Earth curve? Because you seem confused about it, Josh. I just want to confirm that is the horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet that you said we weren't talking about. Because I'm very confused based on what you've said, Josh.
Well, I apologize that you're confused. No, what I'm saying is I was trying to explain something in terms of how I understood it. I was not familiar with that formulation that Patrick and you had brought about, hence why I was saying that I do not recognize that, and I explained my position on what I was talking about.
Gotcha. Do you understand it now your co-host has put it in the same way we put it?
Well, that's great. And so let's answer his question then.
Okay. So I'd like to address Josh first, if that's all right, David.
Yeah.
Josh, it is true that you have said on more than one occasion during this discussion that the Earth is just so incredibly big that we won't expect to be able to detect any curvature. You did say that. You said that 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And now we have this Lake Pontchartrain photo, which has what appears to be extremely exaggerated curvature. So I need to know, can we now dispense with the notion that that in the globe model, the horizon is not Earth curve? Because I really, really want to kind of nail you guys down on this, that we should expect the horizon to be of a specific distance based upon the geometry of a spherical Earth. Can I get you guys to concede that point?
They have. He just put it to us with his model. It just contradicted the host.
I'd like it to be acknowledged.
Well, no. So hold on, Nathan. Let me explain. Let me talk for a second, if that's okay. So the horizon, as we discussed right a second ago with David, does change. You even said that, Patrick, that on cloudy, different atmospheric days, the horizon is going to appear to be shorter in distance.
Sorry,
on some other days, it's going to be.
Atmo, what now?
Excuse me, Nathan. I'm talking.
Just didn't hear the word. What was the word? Atmo, what now?
Let's not do that.
It's a begging the question fallacy. Do we not address fallacies here?
When they make fallacies, we're not going to interrupt.
Oh, my bad.
We'll let them be fallacious. All right. Please continue, Josh.
Okay. So the atmosphere or to the horizon, this can change. Atmospheric conditions, barometric pressures, amount of cloud cover, right? The amount of moisture content, carbon dioxide, all these other gases that are in the air. All these things can change and can give you different perspectives on the horizon. I said typically in the Navy, when we're looking at the ocean, I believe it was somewhere between 8 to 16 nautical miles, depending on the various different atmospheric conditions. Okay. So what I was trying to say and this is what I thought I did iterate, is that from a eye-open position, just looking and perceiving to see if there's curve, it's not going to be seen because it's negligible at that distance. Now, looking at an object like David's showing, right, we have this curvature that's going over the horizon. Why is that happening?
It's not. It's the horizon. The horizon's not Earth curve. If the horizon was Earth curve, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And in the black swan imagery, we can show that the distance to horizon is beyond 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as it must be on a sphere Earth radius 3959.
Yeah, and actually it was... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I want to point out, Josh, you bring up these atmospheric disturbances or atmospheric conditions, water vapor, right, carbon dioxide, whatever, clouds. Those things make visibility less, not more. So I really think that, no, it doesn't. Those things really do make visibility less, period. I mean, I would just appeal to the common sense of the audience in this case. Clouds make it harder to see stuff. They don't make things appear that wouldn't normally appear.
Well, clouds and various different gases existing in the atmosphere are different things. Clouds are a concentration of water vapors, where in
make
the
visibility
sense of,
less, not more.
Clouds do, yeah, absolutely, clouds do.
Atmospheric interference of all kinds reduces. Can
you look through a glass of water and have a magnification on the the other end?
Okay, may I just, it's atmosphere you're talking about?
No, I asked Patrick a question.
Okay,
that's what I'm asking.
It's irrelevant. My
not
question:
irrelevant. Can I look through a water glass and is the object on the other end magnified?
There can be lensing that takes place through the atmosphere.
Okay.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, can I get to the fallacy now?
Okay.
I was told I wasn't allowed to interrupt.
So I was correct on that premise when I said that.
Yes. Other than the fallacy you used, which obviously I'm never going to get to ever address. So you said what now?
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere?
Yeah.
So do you believe that sphere-shaped air is something we experience?
Why don't you explain to me what you perceive it to be?
It's your word. You said atmosphere. What do you think that means?
That is the amount of gases that are held within the Earth by gravity.
Held? Gravity doesn't hold anything. It's not a force. There's no scientific evidence of gravity.
Really?
Middle of a statement.
Middle
of a statement. My bad. Obviously, it's me being a dick wanting to make a full statement, contradicting you. Obviously, that's me being a dick. No, there is no force of gravity. My bad, still in the middle of the same sentence. Obviously, this is me being a dick. Maybe this is me interrupting you. So gravity's not a force.
Which you've been doing the whole show.
My bad, that's the fourth attempt. Gravity's not a force to hold gas in a sphere shape. Gravity is the bending of a conceptual medium known as pseudo-Riemannian force space-time derived in the mind's eye of Einstein in mathematics. It's a fourth-dimensional geometry. Meanwhile, in reality, we live in a three-dimensional Euclidean reality. There is no dimension of time to bend. Even if we could bend time as a dimension in a Euclidean four-space geometry, it wouldn't be a container for gas. Gas isn't held by pseudo-Riemannian force-space time bending in an Einsteinian gravitational dimension. Further to that, the notion that gas being held, i.e. gravity is a force, was debunked by Einstein 108 years ago. Mass does not attract mass. That's a Newtonian concept of gas. Pressure being held because of its weight going down towards the centre of Earth. That was superseded 108 years ago by Einstein when he developed the fourth-dimensional space-time bending, which is not a force and is definitely not a container to hold gas in a sphere shape. So your oxymoron, sphere-shaped air, is merely a begging the question fallacy to allow you to describe atmospheric conditions as based on an R value, a sphere value, the radius of Earth being the value that derives your refraction rate at 7/6 of the radius in sphere-shaped air. Atmo, air, sphere, a shape. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere, it takes the shape of its containment. If the gas was in a sky vacuum, we'd have none to breathe. We'd all be dead, because gas fills space. Gravity's not a force. Bending fourth-dimensional space-time doesn't hold it in a container.
And if I could say something else, Josh, you do bring up the concept of gravity, and that's what holds our so-called atmosphere here. I would ask you, what evidence do you have that gas gets acted upon by so-called gravity?
Air.
What?
Air.
That's not an answer. What evidence do you have that gas gets pulled on by gravity?
Okay. Let's extrapolate this, okay? Because I like looking at conceptualization of ideas. I got to see it, right? We got to see it. On a flat Earth, right? And this is maybe where we begin. On a flat Earth, what is holding us down?
What do you mean? What's holding us down? Gas is expanding in all directions. It's not going down. We're talking about
gas. That's not what I asked. Why are my feet on the ground, and when I jump up, I fall back down?
You're more dense than the air.
Why is that happening on a flat Earth?
Because you're more dense.
Why is that happening on a flat Earth?
I'm trying to answer. Because you're more dense than air.
You're more dense.
You're more dense than air.
So you're saying that
I'm still in the middle of answering you. Okay, it's more than 1 or 2 words. You want to call me a dick again? Because I'm in the middle of saying something and you can't help talking through me every single time I try and address you? You've asked me, why do I go down on a flat Earth? Do I only get 10 seconds to answer?
Go. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to shut up. So you are more dense than the medium of air. If you jump into a pool of water, you float because you're pretty much the same density as the water. You don't go down. Meanwhile, helium balloons, if you let them go, don't go down either. And clouds and gas isn't going down with gravity. It's not going down 9.8 meters per second squared in line with a 108-year out-of-date force pulling it, or a bending geodesic and fourth-dimensional space-time pulling it to the ground. Gas is created at ground level and goes up. So when you ask me why you go down through the medium of gas, what, are you going to ignore the gas in the puddles being created and going up to the clouds? They're not going down with gravity, are they?
So Nathan, can I ask you a question on this real quick? What is air?
An inhomogeneous anisotropic mixture of gases.
What kind of gases?
All sorts of different gases. What's the point of this?
Like
it's
what?
not going down with
Like
gravity. It's not creating a sphere-shaped air. We haven't got atmosphere. You seem to be focusing on something that I haven't claimed. This is all in regards to your claim that there's a sphere-shaped air held by gravity. What's going on? Every single time I address anything that's put to me, it's 2 people talking at the same time. Everything I say triggers you, clearly. Yeah. The reason we're having this discussion is because there it goes again. There it goes again. The composition of air, when we're discussing sphere-shaped atmosphere made by a claim that you put to us, what's the relevance? Who cares what the proportions of air are? It's created at ground level and doesn't go down with gravity and form a sphere shape. That's your claim debunked. You're going to concede that?
Can I speak?
In the middle of me talking or when I've stopped? Obviously, you can speak. I've finished making my point.
You have stopped, so I'm asking you, obviously, can I speak? You talk about the medium of air. Air, you just said, is a combination of gases. But then you were saying that what we experience as gravity is due to density. If that was the case, then you would see a substrate of gases. Firstly, you have nitrogen, you have oxygen. These are 2 different elements on the periodic table at 2 different densities. You have water that is in air. That is at a very larger density. Why aren't they separating through the densities of what you just talked about?
I already answered you when I said it was an anisotropic inhomogeneous mixture of gases. Gases of air have gaps between them. They disperse. It's a law of nature. It's called entropy.
Air
and there we go again in the middle of my sentence. Obviously, halfway through the sentence, you need to be talking.
Yeah.
You done? You done? Can I talk? Are you done? Have you finished? Do I have your permission to talk? Do I have your permission to finish the sentence?
No, what you're saying is making any sense.
No, I do not have permission to finish this sentence. Okay, so I don't have permission to talk. Okay, I understand.
Wow.
This is hilarious.
Patrick, would you like to chime in on what I was asking?
I'll answer you, Josh.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Number one, you asked why we go down. We're more dense than air, just like Nathan said.
Right.
We live in a density gradient. Denser things go down, less dense things go up.
Correct.
Okay? Very important. Gases do not fall to the earth, period. Gases expand in all directions. Entropy increases. You cannot have gas pressure without containment. The heliocentric model claims that the gas that we are breathing is immediately adjacent to a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. That is not possible. And there is no evidence that so-called gravity causes gas to go down. Otherwise, we'd be sweeping up gas from the floor. Gas goes up, gas goes down, gas goes to the side, it goes everywhere. There is no evidence that the sky is a vacuum. There.
So, Patrick, do you have a carbon monoxide detector in your house?
No.
Okay, I do. We put them on the bottom outlets. The reason is because carbon dioxide is a heavier gas than air and falls down to the floor.
No, it doesn't.
When they're talking about global warming and they measure carbon dioxide levels on the surface level, they're measuring them at the surface level. Yes, they expand. They can be expanded up. They can be expanded down. But heavier gases do fall down.
No, they
You
do
cannot
not.
have gas pressure without containment. Do you
Not
agree?
try and address this? Keep saying it and you're not addressing it. Saying gases go down like carbon monoxide. No. Carbon monoxide, when introduced in a high quantity to other gases that are already existent in a contained system, can form at the bottom. Same with sulfur hexafluoride. But all gases, without exception, will disperse into whatever volume they have. With time, all of that carbon monoxide will disperse throughout the containment, without exception. It's a law of nature. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Dispersion. It's a law of nature. So saying it forms puddles, no, it does not.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this then. If something is heavier, more dense, falls down, is it not being contained by the substrate above it?
Right. Substrates of gases don't contain other gases. They have gaps between them. Gases can't contain gas. They're just a gap. That's all it is. Molecules moving through gaps. So how's it being contained by a substrate of other gases?
When it's an
when it's an anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases. When you go up to the very highest heights, there isn't a layer of different gas. It's all one mixture. It's all mixed up. The only place you find that is where the gases are produced. So if you have a carbon monoxide leak into a house, it's trying to disperse already existing gases in a contained system. So you'll have a higher concentration where it's being introduced. Likewise, on a much bigger scale, you've got a higher concentration of water vapor pre-conversion layer at the cloud substrate, if you want to call it that. But there's still a mixture of all of the different gases at all quantities, at all levels, because it's an anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases. Meanwhile, to have this dynamic system, we must have containment. If the sky was a vacuum, as is claimed to be a place you can take pictures of Earth as a sphere from space, that's a space that gas would fill, then all of the gases we have here breathing at pressure would fill that space. Because what are they pressing on? At the top, where there's the Kármán line, an arbitrary point that they say forms the volume of the gas that we all breathe. Well, volume is the amount of containment for the gas. The Kármán line is not a container, and gravity is not a force. So we don't have a sky vacuum. The sky is not a vacuum. If it was, the gas would fill it. We'd all be dead.
Space is fake.
Okay.
Also gay.
There's a lot of arguments coming in. I want to just quickly return back to the causeway.
Yeah.
Just for the benefit of the listeners, if you would like to check this out, this has already been modeled out and thoroughly documented over at Walter Bislin's blog. I'll drop all the links afterwards. And what this is a curvature app simulation based on the observations that were made. So with the help of a simulation, I'll just read this out. With the help of a simulation, I show up to what altitude the Earth appears flat, although it actually has a spherical shape. Using some animations, you can learn how to recognize the curvature of the Earth or in what circumstances it appears flat. The simulation can also simulate refraction. And I prove by means of photos how the simulation depicts reality by superimposing the simulation results onto actual photos. So this is how it goes. So if we go to the causeway, this is Lake Pontchartrain, and they're just showing you the different measurements here and the perspective. So just let the model go through real quick, and then you guys can come in and rebut it. And you can even go in and you can toggle your height, right? So that you can get the idea. You can zoom. And I'm just bringing this up. I don't have to go through the whole thing. Like, it's all broken down. The math is here, how the values were determined, what the images are, what the equations are, right? All of this stuff. The refraction is all included. So it's just a tool that was created based on a model that made predictions, and then they went and validated those predictions with photos and video. It's been repeated multiple times over a period of time, and they get the same results. And so, and there's numerous areas. There's another lake that there was another experiment that was done that we can bring up as well. But anyways, just so that you have a place to go and look into this, because there's answers to the claims that are being made here. And that's where we are. And this is where this debate has been stuck for years, is that one group is saying, this is the way the math has to be done. This is the way we have to calculate it. And the other is saying, no, you're missing this data. And there's been a gap between this debate in that regard for a long time. So this means that each and every one of us, the viewers, have to go and try to verify that for themselves. I'm not saying just believe a model, but the model represents, if the model is accurate, then when you go to the reality, to the real world and document it, if you can debunk the model or you can prove it correct, and you have to do it through repeatable experiments.
Can I debunk the model? It's not an experiment. You don't know what science is, but can I debunk the model, please?
Debunk away.
If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, as depicted in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Walter Bislin model, then every distance to the horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, exactly as dictated in Walter Bislin's model. The distance to the horizon in the Black Swan is beyond the geometric limitations of a globe Earth, radius 3959, as depicted in Walter Bislin's crappy Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve calculations in his model. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959, and the horizon is not Earth curve.
I'd like to respond as well.
One sec, Patrick. I just want to point out that, was that an ad hominem fallacy against Walter Bislin?
No,
not at all.
Repeat that last sentence again.
If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as laid down in Walter Bislin's Begging the Question. That means he's assuming the outcome because it's got an R value in it. Proof of Nothing, because it assumes its outcome and has got an R value that can't be measured if the horizon's beyond the geometric distance laid down in these maths. Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking, because there's no account for things reducing in angular size in Walter Bislin's Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve calculations, with a geometric horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, based on an R value that is acquired by a geometric calculation derived from a horizon distance measurement by Al-Biruni. Anything else?
Yes. And
we should do? We should get in touch with Walter Bislin and have him come on and respond to that. But anyways, go ahead, Patrick.
That sounds delightful. I'd love to talk to Walter Bislin, but I'd like to say this. Geometrically speaking, first of all, if you guys really have been looking at this subject for this long, you really should have known 8 inches per mile squared by now. But here's the thing. What happens when you talk to globers and you show them extremely distant objects that cannot possibly exist in the globe model? You cannot possibly see them. They would be obscured by the curvature of the Earth. They retroactively say, well, this time it's refraction bringing it closer to us, or this time it's this, that, or the other, or honestly, it's refraction over and over again. But we have...
Are you saying refraction isn't a thing, though?
No, not in your model.
I'm not saying refraction isn't a thing.
Not in your model,
it isn't. It doesn't magically delete Earth curve.
In your model, in Walter Bislin's model, you can look at the maths. I'm very familiar with Walter Bislin's maths. He used the same as Mick West in the metabunk calculation, same model. I have spoken to him about it and had him over a barrel when I pointed out that the assumption of the R value in his model isn't in any way proven or measurable. It's a begging the question calculator, same as Walter Bislin's. They're the exact same maths. So I have spoken to people who've made these calculations. Mick West is one of them. He made it clear to my audience in no uncertain terms that he begs the question of an R value for these mathematics. Now that R value, as I stated earlier, was measured by Al-Biruni. And Al-Biruni measured a geometric tangent point to the horizon to give you that R value by way of acquisition of a height of the mountain measured from a flat plane with elevation angle measurements. So in order to derive the R value in these maths that you're saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, David, you said it was an experiment? It's not. Maybe you'd like to give us the hypothesis for Walter Bislin's model. There won't be one, you just don't know what science is. We do. On a daily basis on Flat Earth Debate, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, we take apart clowns and their idiotic ideas of what science is. Because we know what science is and how the globe Earth doesn't have any. Meanwhile, this non-science model, with its maths that I understand implicitly, has been debunked because you can't get the R value that the entire model's based on because you can't measure a geometric horizon to give you the R value. We debunked Al-Biruni by debunking the measurement of a geometric sphere edge horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as denied by one of this show host and affirmed by the other. We know what the globe Earth claims, you don't. We know how the Earth's measured flat with elevation angle measurements to Polaris, giving you your maps and models, including the globe. Your globe's a flat Earth model.
Okay, real quick. Okay, Patrick, it's up to you. You want to go first? I want to let you respond to this. And then I have a few questions coming out of the chat that I'm just going to throw in there.
I got to go let my kids in. I'll be right back.
Okay, so
I'm going to
Patrick,
respond to the Walter Bislin model real quick. When Nathan says it begs the question, it's very important to realize how fundamental a flaw in logic that is. We asked at the very beginning, is there any evidence that the horizon is Earth curve? We haven't heard any so far, and actually the answer that we got from Josh was, no, you won't see Earth curve because the Earth is too big. A statement that you can falsify doing simple geometry. And then you go to Walter Bislin's little computation. He starts by begging the question that the Earth is a sphere of radius 3959. And then when the horizon is not where it's supposed to be, he has a whole bunch of other little rigs that he can put in there and say, well, this is why the horizon is different this time. It's this imaginary friend that globe believers have. When they don't find the horizon where it's supposed to be, they explain the Earth curve is not there because it's being hidden by this, that, or the other. Again, begging the question, we know that the Earth curve is being hidden because we know it's a globe. It is circular reasoning every single time.
That's incorrect, Patrick, as to the way they're doing this, because they're not just making a model with math. They're also confirming it with direct observations, and they're doing it repeatably. So that's the difference, right? Is there's got to be a missing link, and they would have a response for that particular math that you're bringing up and showing where that flaw is, right? Yes. I don't have that. I'm not an expert on that.
But the expert was Mick West. Sorry to interrupt.
If we do actual repeatable observations, like, I mean, one of the oldest things that actually, let me go to the audience because they have some of these questions. I'll just throw them in and I'll let you guys chew them apart. So, number one, why can't you see Polaris from the southern hemisphere or Sigma Octantis from the northern hemisphere?
So the hemisphere is a begging the question fallacy again, like atmosphere. It's assuming that Polaris isn't visible from the bottom half of a sphere. Meanwhile, the maps and models are derived from elevation angle measurements to Polaris. So the flat maps and flat models, including the globe, which is converted from these elevation angle measurements to Polaris by way of something called the Haversine formula, which converts flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris to give you latitude lines onto a globe spherical surface. And if you're going to do celestial navigation, you have to convert it back from the flat map, not through Haversine and the globe, onto the celestial sphere, which is the dome of the vision you have when you're on a flat ocean at the equatorial plane, which is how you measure these angles. So to ask how we beg the question of being on the bottom antipodal on a hemisphere to see Polaris, when the very concept of the equator itself is based on the minimum angle you can see Polaris with. So at the equator, you're measuring a flat Earth angle to Polaris at its minimum, i.e. where Polaris is on the horizon. And as you move further towards the centre i.e. towards the North Pole, the angle to Polaris, that's a flat Earth angle measurement, increases as you approach Polaris, i.e. it goes up and up and up in the sky. Well, that's a flat Earth angle that you're asking about. For a flat Earth concept, the equator, and then imposing your, begging the question, hemispherical assumption onto that flat Earth derivation to ask me how we can't see it off the bottom of your assumption that we dangle off the bottom of a sphere? Crap question.
It's also important.
Do you have a picture of the map that you agree upon as to being a map of the flat Earth? Do you have
all of them
like
are flat? You show me a globe-shaped map.
No. I'm asking.
I answered you. All of them.
Change.
All of them. They're all flat. Do you know why? Because they need to work with elevation angles. That's why all maps are flat. If you're at sea and you're using a map to navigate, you're going to measure one line along the ground and one line to the star. That's an angle. Then you're going to draw a circle on a map. That's why it's flat. That's why they're not globe-shaped. You can't do celestial navigation on a curved surface because you can't acquire an elevation angle from a curve. It's an angle. It's two straight lines. That's why they're all flat. So now you've asked me, do you want to show me your globe-shaped map that anybody navigated with ever? Because there isn't one. They're all flat for a reason, so you can navigate with them with the flat Earth elevation angle measurement off a flat plane that you'll be getting from a sextant.
Josh, why do they flatten out maps?
I just told you. Is it like I'm not here? Is it I say something and then you appeal to someone else?
Hey, I'm asking a question.
Yeah. Is it okay if we ask questions?
Yeah. No. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Well, because our perception, right? Maybe there's a way to look at this in a different way. Is we're all talking about how we perceive reality. Am I correct on that? Is how we?
No, we were
perceive
talking about
reality?
maps, and I was answering him. But now we could talk about something else because you don't know.
I came in. Well, that's one. I came in at the middle of the conversation because I was letting my kids in the door.
All right. Do you want me to fill you in? We were talking about maps and how they're derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris to give you latitude. Obviously, you're not an exact expert on this subject. Meanwhile, I know what the hell I'm talking about. Do you want to carry on talking about this with me, Dave? Or do you want to hand it over to your host who doesn't know anything about it?
This is you know,
I want to have Josh's. I just want to ask his opinion on it. He
doesn't know.
I just want to know.
You're not clear. He doesn't know.
Well,
No,
let's
Nathan,
find out.
Let's find out. Why don't you shut up for a sec and let's find out? How about that?
It goes back to the same thing that we've been talking about this whole time, and we're never going to come to an agreement on.
Profound.
The perception of curve.
Nathan, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you.
Perception of curve, okay, is not realized with eye length distance to the horizon. And so early navigators, they produce flat Earths. We still produce flat maps today. What's wrong with that?
Because you claim we're on a sphere?
Flat. What's that?
Because you claim we're on a sphere. He's asking me about these flat maps. Like,
I didn't ask you anything. I'm asking Josh. But there's utilitarian reasons why they would put it onto a map for the ability to do these things. But that doesn't mean it scales to the fact that it's saying that the Earth itself is flat. It's
why is that?
It's a utilitarian purpose.
Why is that? Well, maybe you can tell us why.
Nathan, I'm talking to Josh.
I'm just asking, are we allowed to ask questions? I'm just asking why that would be. Why would they scale it to a flat map? Maybe you could tell me. Why is that?
And Josh, could you give it a shot there? Go ahead.
Well, no, you're right. Is that there's many reasons why we use a flat map. I mean, navigators weren't going to go out there and just create, some of them had globes, but it's hard to navigate on that for the exact reasons that Nathan said, is because when you're looking at the horizon on perspective, it appears horizontal. I've agreed with this. I have not said this wasn't the case. I said the reason why it appears horizontal is because we have a limited perspective to the horizon and that the curvature of the Earth is negligible towards that horizon.
Oh, that's the end of my time in this discussion, clearly.
Okay.
This is what I'm trying to say is like we're all like observing the same phenomena.
No worries.
Except for my audience, this is what happens when you point out that the host of the show hasn't got the slightest fucking idea what he's talking about. The co-host wants to hand across to him because I'm proving a flat Earth. Meanwhile, I'm getting muted while this dick waffles on about absolutely nothing interesting.
I think I'm probably accurately describing your position on this. Then David comes with this Lake Pontchartrain photo and says, this is evidence of the horizon being Earth curve. Then shows the Walter Bislin calculator that includes lots of other atmospheric conditions and it says the horizon is Earth curve. I'm not really understanding why you're persisting with this claim that we're not going to see an Earth curve horizon when all the globers are talking about why they're seeing Earth curve horizon.
But see, I don't want to get into the topic of optics of what we're seeing with reflection, refraction, all of this other stuff, right? How various different densities in the atmosphere cause an amplification of the light that we're seeing. I don't want to get into that argument. All I'm trying to talk about here was in the perspective of the curvature of what we were talking about. Now, Patrick, I have stated this over and over and over again. If you take the circumference of the Earth and divide it by 360, which is a circle, the number you get is about 69, right? 69 miles. So if you take in miles, 24,000 miles divided by 360, you get about 69 miles. That means that every 1 degree, so for the globe Earth, for every 1 degree, and I was saying 75 because that was my approximation, about 75. 69 miles is what you should see in the sense of 1% of...
I've already covered this, but that's why I've been muted and removed from the conversation, because 1 degree is a flat Earth elevation angle measurement. I'm not allowed to interrupt to point this out, so the guy's going to reiterate his incorrect nonsense with me on mute.
8 inches over 1 mile squared is distributed through that 1 mile. It's not 1 mile drop 8 inches. And this is what a lot of people do believe. I'm not saying that's what you believe, but this is what a lot of people do.
See, meanwhile, me and Patrick have covered this 4 or 5 times on their behalf, and the host has denied it. 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Completely ignored, didn't understand it. Now he's waffling on through the same incorrect shit he's mentioned 3 or 4 times.
Understand why we're still on this topic. If we can agree to disagree on this. Let's move on to the other various points.
75 miles. 75 squared, what is that? 5,625 times 2/3. We're going to call that 4,000 feet, give or take. Maybe 3,900 feet over 75 miles. That was your approximation. 3,900 feet is how much curvature of the Earth would block a person on point A, 75 miles distant from point B. You wouldn't be able to see anything shorter than 3,900 feet in height. That is a geometric reality, okay? So you may call it just 1 degree, but it still requires approximately 3,900 feet of blocking curvature. You just draw a circle. Say, okay, the distance is 1 degree over these 360. The actual curvature skipped over is 3,900 feet. It's enormous.
3,900 feet is just a little over a mile. And we're talking about 1 mile squared, right?
Well, first of all,
we're talking about our mile. Patrick, have you ever been to Denver, Colorado and came in from Kansas? Okay. Denver, Colorado is the mile-high city, right? 5,280 feet. So it was a bit under a mile with that 3,900. 5,280, 1 mile. Okay. The Colorado Rockies, some of those are 14,000 feet, but they're sitting in an elevation of a mile up. So they're 5,280 and then 10,000, 14,000 feet. Okay. If there's no curvature to the Earth, when should, using trigonometry, geometry here, when should I begin to see them coming from Kansas into Denver, Colorado?
Well,
and
that's
it's about 380 miles from the border of Kansas to Denver.
Okay, so that's why you take the square root of the observer's height.
So the thing we've told him a dozen times, but I'm not allowed to point out again.
Computation is done for a sphere of circumference of 24,901 English statute miles. So if you're at 30,000 feet, you're on an airplane, right? You take the square root of 30,000 feet. What is that? 175? What's 175 squared? Is it 30,000 roughly? So anyway,
it's 3625.
Okay. Anyway, wow, I got it way wrong. So call it 160. Call it 170. So 170 times 1.225, right? Okay. So you should not be able to see further than 200 miles from 30,000 feet on a globe of radius 3959. J. Tolan Media is showing infrared photos from 30,000 feet of elevation,
but that is
well over 500 miles.
Perspective, right? That's assuming on a flat Earth, right? If the Earth is flat, but we also have to take into account elevation, correct? I mean, so we all agree that the Earth has sea level. It can go up hundreds and thousands of feet in the sense of topography. We all agree upon that?
Sea level. So the elevation of the mountain is in reference to sea level, correct? 0 would be sea level?
Yes.
Level.
Mm-hmm. Yes, flat. That's what I'm saying. Is if
flat.
We took the where the sea meets land is 0. Okay, where the sea meets land is 0. If we account for that, and we say that the Earth has elevation in the sense that we climb up hills, we can go up mountains. Are we all in agreement that the Earth has different elevations?
Yes, with reference to a 0 baseline, a flat Earth.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So what I'm trying to say is, if I'm coming in from Kansas, and Denver, Colorado is the mile-high city, so it sits at 5,280 feet elevation, and I have a mountain that is in Colorado that is 14,000 feet high, or 14,000 feet high. When should I be able to see that? And you're saying it depends on the height. Yes, the height of the observer is to the horizon, not at objects that are above the horizon massively, especially a landmass that is going to move up and elevate upward 1 mile from that ground level.
Okay.
When should I expect to see Denver, Colorado, coming from Kansas on a flat Earth? If we're talking about elevation, it's 1 mile up, and then there's mountains above it that are 10,000 feet up. Okay. If I'm coming from Kansas, if I'm looking at the horizon, that's fine. My height does matter. But if I'm looking at an object that is above the horizon in elevation, when should I be able to see that?
Okay, I'll answer. So in your mathematics, including the Walter Bisling calculator, there's no accounting for perspective. So according to Globe Earth mathematics, the height is irrelevant because the height in
But Patrick just said it was relevant.
So the height in Globe Earth mathematics is irrelevant because the distance of the mountain versus the height of the mountain given in feet won't change with observer distance. So in Globe Earth maths, it doesn't matter if the mountain's 10 miles away or 1 mile away, it's always calculated at the same feet or meters value. Ergo, the size, that's apparent size, angular size, perspective, does not change with distance. Hence my description of it being a begging the question proof of, I think, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. Because where things reduce in size, that's angular size, perspective, and then get obscured from view because they become too small to see, the Globe Earth maths, which excludes and hijacks perspective, claims that it will disappear from view, it's only about the 10th time, at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's the point that the geometric claim of an Earth curve that obscures your view when you ignore perspective will block the view of the mountain. That's why when people charge flat earthers with why can't you see New York from Ireland, when they claim Earth curve at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet is getting in the way, when in reality, New York's very small at that distance. It's perspective, just excluded from Earth curve mathematics.
Thank you, Nathan.
Can I just ask a quick question here?
Go ahead.
When I'm sitting here, because I live in the British Columbia, live right by the ocean, and I, on a regular basis, witness when boats are going and they're disappearing bottom up. Okay, this is one of the oldest observations. So yeah, so if we're talking about it disappearing on a flat plane, the vanishing point, the whole ship, the whole boat should disappear in entirety. It would not disappear bottom up. That's where my question is just putting math aside for a second.
Okay, do you want me to explain that to you?
Observations that have been made for 2,000 years on this.
Okay, I got you. Do you want me to explain that? Can I explain? Can I explain? Can I explain that to you?
Can I take this one?
I wanted to respond to Nathan's response to me, if I could do that first, because I think
can I
maybe
just address this bottom-up obstruction of the boats before you do? So you're describing something.
I would like to, before we move on to that part, because we're talking about two different observational phenomena.
Sorry, Josh. Okay? Then that's my fault.
Right.
So, okay, address that and then Nathan, right to you, okay?
The question I asked was on a flat Earth, not on a round Earth. And Nathan, you explained it very well in the sense of a round Earth. 1.1225, right? You explained it on a round Earth. I asked on a flat Earth, coming from Kansas, looking at the edge of the flat Earth, towards the edge of the flat Earth, and I have an elevation of 5,280 feet, and then another elevation of mountains that are 14,000 feet high. When should I expect to see them?
Okay, I'll try and rephrase what I said about a globe Earth, but to answer your question,
I don't want to hear about a globe Earth.
I
want to know
rephrase what I said about
perspective of what we should hear
I got
on
that.
a flat Earth. How does that observation
I got you.
happen?
I heard.
When should I see them?
Thank you. I do need you to stop talking while I answer you, though, if that's okay.
I just want to be clear that we know what we're talking about here in the sense of the question being asked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving me the height of the mountain in feet, and feet or meters don't change with distance. That's an angular change. So the angle of the mountain would change as you approached it, not the feet and inches as you've given me in your question, making your question malformed. Now, I've answered your question in regards to why you've posed it to me as well, which is in globe Earth maths, the assertion that 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet will be the limitation of your view to Earth curve obstruction would only have the mountain in feet and inches not change in angular size as you approach it. So based on the information you've given me, I can't take that hypothetical scenario and put a sextant to the mountain to give me its angular size. That's not enough information. It's a malformed question in that regard. But in terms of a globe, I can answer and point out that there's no perspective in the question. But as you're approaching things, they get bigger. Not in Earth curve maths, they don't.
Right. Aspect ratio. I understand that. I understand what you're saying on the globe Earth side. And the reason I'm asking this question is because if we assume that the Earth is flat and we do have elevation, right, and there is no curvature, then at what distance away from that object, using flat Earth math, would I expect to see that? And if I can get maybe after the show when you guys can go out there and calculate that would be great to hear that answer. And because what I'm asking actually, Nathan, is an experiment that we can all do. We can go to Kansas, I can drive into Denver, and I can test what you guys would postulate would be the actual answer, correct?
Okay,
I mean, if we know the elevation, if we know the height of the mountain, and I'm coming from Kansas, which is roughly sea level, okay? And I know I'm using globe Earth terms there, Nathan. I understand.
Sea level's not a globe Earth term.
We should know that when we should see the mountains in Denver.
Okay.
On a flat Earth.
I got it.
That's what I'm saying.
I got it.
If I wanted to test that out.
I got it the first time, the second time, and the third time. Thank you. But
well, I'm glad it.
Sure.
I'm glad
you're asking a question in regards to the optics of vision, and you can calculate where things disappear into the distance in terms of diffraction with the Rayleigh criterion if you want to look that up. But in terms of that claim, I don't need to answer it because there's no positive assertion from me that needs to explain this on a flat Earth because I'm not using it as a claim. The claim, the positive assertion that does use the horizon, is Earth curve, but we can debunk it by showing imagery that demonstrates the horizon, Earth curve, beyond where it is capable of being in a physical term. So if Earth curve, as in the maths, is a hill in the way of this mountain in the distance, then that hill is at a fixed position. The hill being Earth curve in the way, blocking your view of the mountain in the distance. Well, that's all your positive globe Earth claim that we can debunk, not something that needs a burden of proof reversal fallacy using to get me to justify something that fails as a globe Earth claim. So meanwhile, to go to David's question, in terms of why the boat disappears bottom first, if you'll beg my indulgence, David, I'll take you through an example of why that happens. If I take a brick and put it a few feet away from you, you'd concede that you can see the brick, right? Hopefully you don't need to answer, you just say yes. But if I take that brick and put it, let's just say about a mile away, would you concede that you can just about make out the brick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I take that same brick and put it 4 miles away, so you can see it moving towards the horizon, getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then disappearing from view, would you concede that at 4 miles, a brick's too small to see?
Yeah, I guess because it depends on the field of vision, right? Yeah, I get where you're going, but why does it not disappear?
I've got. You just have to go with me. I beg your indulgence.
Okay, I'll go with you. I'll go with you.
Okay, I'm nearly there. So at 4 miles, you would concede a brick's too small to see. It's disappeared into the horizon because it's too small. Now, if I put 1 million other bricks on top of that brick and make a high-rise skyscraper, would you concede that you can see the high-rise skyscraper at 4 miles, but the brick at the bottom is still too small to see?
Right, but we're not building bricks when we're talking about a moving object on the top of the water like a boat.
Yeah, and if the Earth was a sphere radius 3959, every distance to that obstruction to the boat could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and we can fundamentally debunk that claim by showing imagery that has a hill, claimed to be Earth curve at the horizon, beyond the things it's supposed to be blocking. So we can debunk that claim in geometry. But the claim, in terms of explanation, reality, I can explain why things disappear bottom up. I can explain why things disappear bottom up at the horizon by taking you through the thought experiment of getting a brick to be too small to see and then putting other bricks on top of it that you can see. The bottom brick's still not visible. Ergo, that building at 4 miles is missing the bottom brick. Doesn't mean it's obscured by Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, though. We can debunk that.
It's true, David.
The blink test.
If you don't mind,
I'm going to keep this on mute, and feel free to talk while this is playing in the background, just for people watching, so that you have a different example here to talk about this. Go ahead, Patrick.
So what I want to point out is that you asked the question about looking out into the water and how a boat disappears from the bottom up. When you zoom in on that boat after it has disappeared from the bottom up, you can reacquire it in its entirety via telescope. Okay? If you're able to reacquire the bottom of the boat by telescopy, then it follows. Say again?
Have you done it?
Yes.
You can find countless videos of people doing
Not
just
videos.
this.
I meant like you've seen it.
Have I personally? Yes, I've watched others do it.
On video?
Yes, on video.
I'm just clear. I'm not trying to find I'm just literally asking. I'm just curious. That's all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The ability. So I just want to make sure this is very plain. You watch a vessel of some kind in the distance. Your eye perceives it to be disappearing bottom up. Now, the thought of a globe earther is going to be the curvature of the Earth is beginning to obscure the bottom of that boat because it's curved and because the boat is going away. Now, the moment you use some kind of telescope or P900 camera to reacquire the boat in its entirety, you have disproven the notion that it was going over the curve in that instance. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I understand the claim. I'm incredulous to the point that has in fact been done.
Okay. When you have seen that it has been done over and over and over again, we'll talk about it after that. And I would challenge the audience, those of you who have not watched people with P900 cameras doing this over and over again, it's pretty intense stuff.
So this is the counter. Comes from Red's Rhetoric. I'm sure you're familiar with him. And I do have another argument that he has posed to Flat Earth to throw at you guys. I'm just curious what you'll say. But this video was shot P900, clear day, and he's showing you the images put on top with the bottom missing over the distance, right? So this is what the blink test experiment is, and it's very effective at actually speaking to that claim, okay?
Okay.
So I'm just wondering I'm trying to think of because we're talking about a lot of things here, but what kind of practical experiments could you, Patrick, me, Josh, say we go to, I guess they're putting together some of these awesome Badlands events that we're all going to actually physically meet each other. That should be great. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, well, hey, if I make it down there in April, let's say whenever that is, and I was going to ask Josh, because I know Josh had a few experiment ideas as well, that we could do together. We could bring some flat earth proponents, yourselves, we could come, and together we could do a series of experiments. And that blink test would be one of them, as well as what Josh was saying with Denver. And then I do have a few others that have to do with the sun and some other things. But do you have a video, Patrick, to show what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have tons of videos. I made them all in little clips of of Taboo Conspiracy and his wife taking enormous distance shots with the P900 camera, showing that the Earth is completely flat over distances with no curvature obscuring anything. People do it all the time. They also use telescoping lenses to reacquire things that have visually disappeared from the bottom up. I didn't like clip one of those.
That's okay. And you know what? Maybe we don't have to. I just want to give you the opportunity. I was just thinking this would be a good experiment that we could do in real reality together.
Can I address that?
We could verify, because we're just talking. I want to see it with my own eyes, because isn't that what this is?
Please,
observing
please,
yourself,
I beg of you. Can I address that? So a couple of things. The red rhetoric thing. So in Earth curve maths, which is where the assertion comes from that the horizon's blocking the view of the buildings, there's no account for angular descriptions in that maths. So
I'd be curious what he would say to you on that.
Again?
I said I would be curious to see what Red would say to you on that.
Okay.
Go ahead and continue.
It's not really about Red's opinion. It's more about the way it works. I mean, if again,
it's just
two things I want to address. There's just a couple of things I want to address. So the first is the Red rhetoric thing, but then I do want to cover this experiment idea. Great idea, but I do want to get to that more importantly. But the Red rhetoric thing, if you're looking at the building from the base of the building, you appreciate that you've got a very wide angle to the building. You'd have to literally arc the camera up. And as you back away from the building, you'll arc your camera down again. In other words, there's an angular relationship that's going on here. But in the assertions that the horizon's blocking the bottom of the building, it's not accounting for angles. It's not accounting for angular size. It's not accounting for perspective.
But those experiments do account for those angles. That's the thing. In those videos, and they show you exactly how it's done, they absolutely do account for those angles.
Can you show me that in Walter Bislin's maths, please?
I'm not talking about Walter Bisling. I'm talking about Red's rhetoric and his videos and his experiments.
I've had plenty of interactions.
He takes the P900.
I've had plenty of interactions with Red rhetoric as well.
I know, I've heard them.
Red rhetoric's maths is the same as Walter Bislin's. It's, as I said earlier, the globe Earth maths. There's not more than one. That's it. They're all using the same maths. Okay. So there is no account for angular anything in globe Earth maths. None. Okay? It's a 10-foot wall at any distance.
I don't think that Red would agree with you on that, and it's his experiment, so I'd be curious. And that's why I want us to do it. If we do it, instead of talking about other people's experiments.
That was the first thing. Okay, we can just defer to Red. Okay, there was two things, though. That was the first. So Red...
Get to the second, then.
Yeah, the second was knowing what science is. So, you're under the misapprehension. Please don't get triggered in the middle of what I'm telling you. That this is an experiment. But it isn't. Now, the way we've been hoodwinked into believing that we're on a sphere is by people telling you that they've got experiments or science or theories. I beg your indulgence to just let me say this. Thank you. So that magic trick has been planted into you from a very early age, about 5th grade, where they taught you what the scientific method actually was and how the method offers empiricism through the method described to you in the, whatever you want to call it, the pre-show, i.e. if A, then B, or if A, not B, alternative and null hypothesis validated by experiment to give you an empirical outcome. Only one can be true. So therefore science, and in this case experiment, offers an empirical outcome. So when you hear the word experiment, in this case referenced incorrectly to a blink test, the audience will hear empirical, because that's what they've been trained from a very early age. However, an experiment is to establish the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena through systematic experimentation based on a valid hypothesis. Now, this doesn't have that. There is no naturally occurring phenomena here to study. Nothing's occurring in nature. You're talking about a comparison with a varying angle from two different lens positions. That's not a naturally occurring phenomena to science. This is outside the purview of science. But understanding what science actually is the key to understanding how you've been deceived into believing that you're on a model called a sphere that was derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris to give you latitude. Understanding science.
So I shouldn't trust my own eyes, Nathan. Are you telling me this?
Sorry?
Should I not trust my own eyes?
What do you mean, trust your own eyes?
Should I trust my eyes?
I don't know what you mean.
It's a simple question.
Yes, you should trust your own eyes, which show you obviously that you can see further than you'd be able to see on a sphere.
But I disagree, because that's not what I'm seeing.
What are you seeing? We're looking for evidence. We're looking
no,
for
no, I'm
evidence.
telling you, I'm seeing things disappear bottom up, and I'm seeing that there's an issue with the understanding of how that visual effect works with the human eye related to reality, right? So I'm just, the reason I'm asking this question is because this is a sticking point in the flat earth debate is, can we trust our eyes and our senses? And is it okay to employ different tools that can see farther, that can, measure farther? Or should we only rely on our eyes and our senses only?
I don't really understand the question 100%, but I'd like to address one thing that you mentioned, and I've said it already, and I apologize for saying it again. But the fact is that when you look at an object disappearing to your eye from the bottom up, and then are able to use instrumentation to reacquire it entirely,
so we can use. Okay, that's the answer.
Yes,
that's the answer. We can use instrumentation. Great.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you reacquire it using instrumentation, it is important to acknowledge that you have falsified the notion that it was disappearing over the curve of a presupposed spherical Earth. I'd like you to just agree to that, because that's the kind of thing that we're going to be testing.
So you're saying that if we go and we find the right thing to view, right?
Telescope's fine.
If we do a telescope or a P900 or whatever your favorite camera would be, right? Mm-hmm. If we see something going over the horizon and then you can bring it back by zooming in, you're saying that's the proof, right? That would be the experiment we're testing?
I'm going to repeat what I said, and then you'll tell me, because that's not what I said. I said that falsifies the supposition that it was disappearing bottom up due to going over a presupposed spherical Earth.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that's what I meant. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that would be the experiment we could do. That could be one of the experiments we do. And we could get one of these bad boys.
It'd be more appropriate to call it a demonstration.
Sure. Demonstration, whatever word you want, right? This is the baby that I'm going to be picking up.
Experiment is very specific.
Okay. Yeah. Celestron Next Gen 6SE telescope. I'm getting it because it's one of the cheaper ones, actually. And I'm going to be planning on making observations of celestial objects, but you can also use this along with multiple cameras, and you can get different kinds of cameras just to sort of like include every possible viewing angle that we could imagine. And then we could try to make observations like that, right?
Absolutely. Hell yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Perfect. That would be great fun. Another thing, and so that's the curvature stuff, and that's the only claim we got to today. The heliocentric model makes a bunch more claims that are evidence-free.
Can I run one by you real quick, Patrick? And Nathan, feel free to jump in as you're going to do anyways, which is fine. Another experiment we could do is by bringing in the sun. Okay, so this is a personal observation that I've made many times. And my question would be, if the Earth is flat, how could we have complete darkness on one half of the planet and light on the other half of the planet if the sun would be required to move away from us as opposed to circumnavigating us or going around us, right? So I just want to ask, this is the question, and then go ahead. Does the angular size of the sun change throughout the day?
Okay. Now, it's very important to note that I'm not claiming any of these. I'm not making claims about this, but one can observe on a very, very clear day the sun getting smaller and smaller in deserts. Now, we
lose Patrick?
Okay.
In moisture,
we've managed to lose Patrick somehow. But your question is, why does the angular size of the sun?
Oh, sorry. Hold on, Nathan. I just want to make sure he's back, and then feel free. Okay, Patrick, are you back? Can you hear me? I just noticed his connection dropped.
He's frozen. Yeah, it looks like he's frozen.
Okay, let's let him fix that. Nathan, take it away.
So you're saying, why does the apparent size of the sun not change throughout the day? Correct?
No, I was actually asking the question, does the sun change in angular size throughout the day? That was my question. And Patrick's back, so maybe Patrick finish, and then Nathan, go ahead.
Let me just finish real quick. But the statement, how is it that half the Earth has total darkness? That's not actually true. There are times when the Earth has way more visibility of the sun than the globe model would ever allow. But so the notion that it has to be a ball because there's exactly half of the Earth that doesn't have any sun at all given times. It's just falsifiable. It's not true. In fact, there are some days when they say that the Earth is seeing 99% of all human beings are seeing the sun all at the same time. You look that stuff up. It's very interesting. But no, the globe model does not explain the percentage of the Earth that is looking at the sun.
Okay, so then the next question is, does the angular size of the sun in the flat Earth model have to change throughout the day? Because it's moving away from us and towards us, right? It's moving on the record player, right?
What flat Earth model would that be? I haven't claimed any flat Earth model. That's the first thing. And secondly...
Well, there is no flat Earth model, first of all, but I'm just curious what you think about the sun. How do we resolve the issue with the sun?
Well, when you say there is no flat Earth model, that's not true. They're all flat Earth models.
Can we make predictions on it? Do we have an actual scientific model where you can make predictions and you can do those equations and have repeatable experiments? Do you have that model in place? Do you have, any footage of the edge of the Earth? Like this is what I mean. Like, we don't have an actual model. This is admitted by Jeranism and many of the flat earthers. They say, yeah, we don't have a model. We just have our counter evidence to your evidence. Do you agree
I was
with
in
that,
the middle of saying something opposite
to
to that, but I got stepped all over. I'll try again to contradict what you've just said. Other people say that aren't me. All of them are flat Earth models. That's the second attempt. I'll count them off. All of the models, including your globe model, are flat Earth models. All of them are using the latitude lines that are derived by way of a measurement. That's an, in reality, measurement of Polaris on a flat plane. Those angle measurements to Polaris and the degree that it drops towards the horizon as you move away from it give you the latitude lines. That's flat Earth elevation angle measurements to derive the concept that is used to give you your globe model. Now, models aren't science. Science deals exclusively with phenomenon. That's things happening. Flat Earth, or globe Earth for that matter, that's a concrete noun outside the purview of science. You keep appealing to this like it's science. It is not. Meanwhile, we've debunked the mathematical assertion that the horizon is at a geometric limitation to boats and buildings by showing that it isn't. Debunking the geometry. You don't need to trust anything. The maths is laid down, set in stone.
That's why we're going to do the experiments. You didn't really debunk it. You had an answer. There's answers to your answers. We can go on forever. Let's do the experiment together and just prove it once and for all.
What's the experiment?
About the sun, Nathan.
What's an experiment?
Does the sun change
what's
in
an experiment?
Angular size throughout the day on a flat Earth or not?
The not actual size of the sun. You're asking me why does the not actual size of the sun, that's angular size,
does
not
the sun
change?
Get bigger and smaller throughout the day based on where it's located and where you're viewing it?
And that's angular size, not actual size.
That's what I said, the angular size. Yeah. Does that change?
The not actual size change?
Does the sun change in size?
In not actual size, angular size.
Does the sun appear to get smaller?
Well, angular, not actual size. It's the third time I've said it.
Right, because of it's not like we're saying the sun is growing and shrinking like as an actual object. I'm not saying that. Let me rephrase it. From my perspective, viewing the sun, if I were to track it throughout the day, and obviously I would never stare directly at the sun, never do that. Let's say I got a really nice camera with a decent zoom on it, and I put a solar filter on front of that camera, and I literally just mount it on an equatorial mount that would actually track the sun throughout the day, and I let it run for, say, a few days in a row. Will I see the actual size of that sun change based on perspective? Because it would have to be moving forwards and backwards, because what's a sunset otherwise, right? This is the argument that you guys will bring if I say, I've watched the sun go below the horizon. I see it multiple times, and I've seen it come up from the horizon until it's a full sphere in the sky. So in the flat Earth explanation, it would have to go away from you, right? Similar to the boats on the horizon. That's the only way it would work on a flat surface. Mm-hmm. So if that's true, then we would see an observable difference in the angular size of the sun relative to the observer.
The not actual size.
Nathan, I'd like to answer this.
Well, he's put it to me. No, that is what the sun does as it goes away from you. Do you know how I know?
So it gets smaller.
My bad, only
to
one
me,
sentence. Only about 2 or 3 minutes from you. One sentence from me. Maybe you call me a dick. I'll try again. In celestial navigation, you measure your position to the horizon. Now, if the sun is above the horizon, its GP location, that's the point below the sun on the ground, i.e. if the sun was above you at your zenith, can be, and often is, beyond the horizon. So when you measure your angle to the horizon and the GP location of the star, it's beyond the limitation of your view at the horizon. So when you say it's going over the horizon, you mean over the physical geometric limitation to your view at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, aka Earth curve hill getting in the way, that we debunked? Definitely not. Meanwhile, in celestial navigation, you can measure its position beyond the horizon after you establish the ground as level to get an angle to the sun to find out where your location is. That's called celestial navigation. It only works on a flat plane. It only works with angle measurements from Polaris, that's your latitude lines, that were measured from a flat plane. That's why all the maps are flat. So, no, the sun doesn't go beyond the horizon.
So, Nathan, give me a straight answer. Does the size of the sun on my perspective change? And why do I see, as the sun is going over the horizon, I don't see the whole sun disappear. I see it like a quarter of a sun, then half a sun, then three, like it's dipping down. I'm seeing it disappear downwards. And then I'm watching the same phenomenon in the morning, right from my deck. And it's coming up, and you see the top, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. Then it's in the sky, right? That's what I'm witnessing. And so if you're saying that the sun, the reason the sun is setting and rising is because it's vanishing from my field of vision.
I didn't make this claim.
Then I would see the whole thing shrink into the smallest little dot to like a pinhead.
Would you?
And then it would I couldn't see it anymore. I would not see the shape obscured by the horizon. I wouldn't see that.
Like a brick that disappears at 4 miles.
We're not talking about bricks. I'm talking about the sun.
Well, no, we're talking about things that you said get blocked by the horizon. There's a physical geometric limitation at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's an Earth curve hill getting in the way that the sun's going behind in this description.
No joke.
My bad, I'm just summarising his position. Haven't actually refuted it yet. Of course, that's the first time.
Refute it. Why do I see that? Explain it.
I was in the middle of summarising your position to refute it, but then somebody's talked, and now you're asking me to do it again. Just another interruption. Yeah, if the horizon was Earth curve, it would be at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. A hill, geometric in limitations, to get in the way of the sun. We've debunked that. The horizon's not Earth curve. We can show it beyond the geometric limitations.
We have to do
there's
that
the third interruption.
Together.
We can show it beyond the geometric limitations, and further to that, you can measure the GP position of the sun beyond the horizon, where you see it, when you navigate with it. It could be up to 2,000 or 3,000 miles away from you if it's low to the horizon, based on the angular measurement off a flat plane, minus from 90 and times by 60 to give you the distance to the GP to navigate with it. Well, that distance is along a flat baseline. It's a triangle. Well, that's the sun already beyond the horizon in navigational terms. So when you say it goes beyond a hill, no, it's long beyond the hill when you measure its GP position on a flat plane. That's the second time I've refuted your position.
That's not a refutation. So my eyes are deceiving me?
No, navigation. No, navigation is showing you that it's already beyond the horizon when it's several thousand miles away from you and you're using it with an angle measurement to it. Third time.
All right, so let me take a crack at this. So what I don't really understand here is we started by saying there is no evidence that the curve of the Earth is of a presupposed spherical Earth is the reason why we have a horizon. And we ended up kind of battling to a standstill with us saying, do you have evidence of such? To which you responded, okay, we're going to do an experiment to get evidence of such. And then you say to me,
because you didn't like the experiment I showed you. And so I said, let's do it ourselves then.
Right.
Can you define experiment for us?
You haven't shown anything.
I was 10 seconds into my answer.
Dave. Go ahead, Patrick. I
mean, Nathan gets mad for a reason. Okay. So I'm going to try again. All right. So the fact is that we said repeatedly that we can show that the Earth is not a ball because the horizon can be shown not to be Earth curve, because we're able to reacquire objects that were previously thought to be beyond the horizon, blocked by a physical barrier, not simply too small to see because of perspective, blocked by the physical curvature of the Earth. This is the claim of the Globers, okay? Now, you then come back to me and say, well, we're going to find some other experiment. That's fine, whatever. But the fact is that I have already shown you why it is possible to show that the curvature of the Earth is not the reason for the horizon and that such curvature cannot be shown to exist. And then in response, you've come to me and you've said, okay, so we're going to go over to your model that I don't claim. And we're going to say, I want you to explain to me why the sun does this. And you can come up with a laundry list of observable phenomena that you think are explained by the globe model, which we have effectively just debunked. But just because it makes predictions in your mind does not mean that it is true, that it is the reality that we are standing on. That is called an affirming the consequent fallacy. If the Earth is a globe, then we would see the sun go down under the horizon. The sun seems to go down under the horizon, therefore the Earth is a globe. Affirming the consequent fallacy. If A, then B, B, therefore A. It's a fallacy. You can get ChatGPT to admit to it over and over again. So when you ask me to explain to you why the sun appears to do what it does, it's just not part of my burden. We've already shown that the horizon is not Earth curve. Therefore, the Earth is not a ball of 3959 miles in radius. I'm done.
Okay, can I respond real quick? And then Josh, I'd like you to chime in on this.
Yeah, no problem. Just been listening.
So if I'm looking at your model, there has to be certain things that happen if that model is to be true. And the whole point of looking at it is to say, I see a contradiction with what you're saying over here. So we got most of this debate was taken up with the curvature thing, which is great. I'm glad. And everybody can figure it out. And we should do those experiments without watching videos. I agree, right? But if I say, all right, how do you answer this contradiction? I want to know, because if that is if the phenomena of the sun isn't explained, then that's a problem for flat Earth. And I want to know, how do you get around that? And what's the evidence that you have to refute that?
So what claim have we made about the sun exactly for us to be defending?
I made the claim. I asked the question. I said, okay, because actually, this is a really good, we didn't actually get your claim. How close is the sun and how does it operate on a flat Earth?
Okay, so you can't acquire that information because if you're using the sun to navigate with, as it moves towards the horizon, if you're measuring an angle, and then calculating the distance to the GP beyond the horizon that isn't Earth curve that we've debunked, then that would infer, if you're using the triangle to get the height, that it's moving lower to the ground as it reaches the horizon. Well, obviously that's not the case. The sun isn't getting closer to the ground. You can derive its GP position to navigate with it, but it's not getting closer to the ground. So we don't have a height claim. I don't make a height claim. Meanwhile, Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion would suggest that you have orbits, and those orbits can be used to give you scaling values for a sphere Earth in a sky vacuum with gas not expanding into it, and the sun being at a 93 million mile distance because a guy called Christian Huygens superimposed the R value we debunked, measured by Al-Biruni at a geometric limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, onto Venus. So Christian Huygens assumes that Venus has the same R value because obviously it's a rock in a sky vacuum in an orbital motion that Kepler assumed. And therefore you can give your scaling values to your R assumptions to give you your distance and size of the sun, all of which we can debunk. So we don't have a size and distance claim for the sun. You do. This is a burden of proof reversal fallacy. You're the one with the positive claim of size and distance for the sun, and asking me why it does a not actual size change as it moves through its not actual position in a refracted, non-geometric Earth curve world is irrelevant because I don't have a claim about it. You have one about a distance and size to your sun in a heliocentric model. And given that I've just told you about all the assumptions of an R value imposed by Christian Huygens on Venus with an application of Kepler's third law, how do you justify your distance to your sun?
I'm just talking about observation, man. That's what I want to know. How does it work on a flat Earth? If the Earth is flat And I disagree with Patrick's assumption that there's somehow not the phenomena of half the earth being lit and half the earth not. I've got friends that live in Australia. We can experiment all the time and go put cameras out our windows and observe how pitch black that it gets in one area without any kind of faint light going on that you would expect if the sun is going away. You have pitch black and you have full daylight on the other side on it, right? So if the flat earth model is to actually work, the contradiction I'm pointing out is that the sun would have to change angular size throughout the day. And what I have observed, it doesn't change angular size, not even one little bit. And anytime we see change in the size, we can ascribe that to glare and the way light operates with the human eye and everything else. But if you take those solar filtered camera lenses and you track it, and you track it for days and days.
I got it the first time.
You're interrupting.
I got it the first time. I'm not deaf.
I'm just about to finish.
Let him finish repeating it. I heard it the first time.
5. That's 6 times you interrupted.
Doesn't matter what I'm saying.
Dave, go ahead and finish.
Shut up.
Second time I've heard it.
Finish, and then
I heard it the first time.
So I'm going to mute him.
Right, but we are talking to an audience as well.
Yeah, we're not.
So
exactly.
I'm
going to get muted because I've already addressed it. And he's rinsed and repeated and gone through the motions of saying the exact same thing again. And because he doesn't like me giving the same objection to the same repetition of the same thing, I get muted. So when I'm asked why I have my own show, for my own audience that can hear me speaking because I'm not in control of my own show, yeah, I can still talk to you as an audience and say, what a wanker. You don't like me objecting to you repeating the same thing I've already overcome? You haven't acknowledged my refutation of it? Just going to be completely ignored? Yeah, that's all right. Stick me on mute. That's why I've got my own show. So that I don't get muted by a host when I object to hearing the same thing repeated without a single acknowledgement of my refutation of it.
It would change angular size throughout the day to the observer if it was a close sun going over a flat earth. It would, if it doesn't, that's a problem. And I want to know why.
So when it does change angular size, you've already said that it's because of other factors, right? So it's an automatically falsified observation if you do observe a change in angular size.
That's not what I said. Can I correct that? I'm asking you, that is if we're looking at the naked eye, which you should actually not do, but because of the effect of the sun on the eyeball. But I'm talking about looking at it through a camera, zoomed in for 3 days in a row, tracking it with an equatorial mount, which we're going to get to, which is a major problem for flat
solar
Earth.
filters.
Solar filters, keeping it zoomed, following it and tracking it doesn't change a bit. So we can eliminate the issue with glare and perspective and human eye limitations and all of that because we have a device that can actually show that it does not change in angular size. And that is a major problem for the flat Earth model.
So just address this multiple times. Yeah? Not actual size. Who gives a crap? Meanwhile, his audience can't hear a single word I'm saying.
Have all the answers.
You're not
the
my
fact
guru,
is,
Patrick. I love you, man, but you're not a guru.
All right, but just think about what you're requiring right now, okay? We have already gotten to the point where you are completely stymied when it comes to showing that there's curvature of any kind. As visual,
I think we disagree with that. I think it was a disagree to disagree.
Yeah, that's going.
Disagree to disagree when it's 2-on-1 and the other guests can't be heard and interject in any way.
I mean, my God, have the tests been done?
Have you done the test, Patrick?
Patrick, have you done the test? Don't know what they're doing, Patrick. By people.
Meanwhile, we're going to filibuster and talk through everything Patrick says with the other guest on mute.
Not done the test myself.
Okay, so how about this? Is information YouTube, warfare a thing that's happening these days?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do we know that what you're seeing and what you're seeing on the videos?
I want a concession though that when we do show, because I'm gonna have to demonstrate the actual math to you, because when we came into this,
love that. By the way,
you got 4.5 seconds before he got interrupted.
But here's the other thing. When you do see angular size change in the sun, which you can observe under a bunch of instances where the sky is where the air is very, very dry, will you agree that it is much more consistent with a moving, more local sun than with a stationary, ultra giant, very distant sun? Would you agree? Would you agree that a change in angular size of the sun under the right air conditions, because moisture in the air will cause lensing, will cause magnification, but a dry air example of the sun plainly getting smaller as it moves out of sight, wouldn't you agree that's much more consistent with a small and local sun?
Okay, thank you for. So that's that's being postulated by flat Earth, right? That's the theory.
I asked you a question.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. If you can show me that it changes angular size, then that's a point for your side, because
would it not falsify the notion that it's 93 million miles away and stationary?
Well, yeah, because if it's actually changing in size, then I mean, there's probably more questions that have.
There it goes again. Actually changing in size when we're talking about angular size. Meanwhile, I'm muted, can't object, not allowed to interject into this conversation anymore. Talking about actual size changes when it's not actual size, angular.
The sun does not change in angular size. So that's another experiment that we could do at the Badlands Media Conference. Okay, Nathan.
So not actual size change. Fourth time.
Change in angular size. Change in apparent size.
Not actual size.
Not actual.
Right.
Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying the sun itself shrinks and expands and changes and turns into gummy bears. I'm saying, from my perspective, I should see the sun vanishing and moving in and becoming big. It would be the same with the moon. It would be the same with a lot of things, right? So we got to test that. And one way to test it is to get a high quality zoom camera with a solar filter mounted on an equatorial mount. And then that way we can track it over a period of days and then see if the sun itself actually changes in angular size.
Actually changes in not actual size? My God.
Sorry.
No worries. Let's just move on. It doesn't matter. Five times is enough. I'll just get muted again if I try and refute this, or,
Josh,
my second attempt to refute it's now getting currently talked through.
Okay,
even though I've pointed out not actual size isn't actual size change.
This is a very simple observation that we could
Obviously, I'm going to get completely rumpus and talk through. Okay.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, every time I've talked, I have. So why would I expect anything different?
Oh, yeah.
This is me angry. This is me getting angry, right?
No. You're just annoying, and that's just the fact.
Winning.
So
yeah, it's annoying for people who think they're really confident about Earth being a globe.
Keep telling yourself that, buddy. Josh, how about you give a shot on this? What do you think about this?
I'm not allowed to give it a shot? Oh, right. I was just on mute for 5 minutes.
Okay, actually, Josh? I just wanted to say, I'll go ahead and concede to Nathan if he wants to go ahead and give it.
Excellent.
I thought Nathan had already answered it 5 times, as he said.
So the equatorial mount, where does the concept of the equator come from? Do you know?
Go ahead and tell us.
It's your claim. You were talking about how wonderful the equatorial mount is for a flat Earth.
I'm talking about how the equatorial mount has a problem because it would have to rotate on 2 different axes in order for it to work, but it doesn't do that. And we're going to get to it, and I'll put the argument up for people to look for themselves. I want you to answer about the sun. Let's go with the sun. What do you say to that?
Well, I thought we covered it. Why does the not actual size of the sun not change in not actual size as it moves from its not actual position throughout the day?
Actual size.
And my bad, I was in the middle of summarizing your position. Obviously, this is me being angry, right? Me being angry, interrupting you. So why does the not actual size of the sun not change in not actual size as it moves from its not actual position? I'm not going to answer that, but I will carry on with asking you if you know where the equator for the equatorial plane has come from for a second time.
Well, it's based on the concept that Earth is a sphere. So there's an equator.
Wrong.
And
how is it derived then from a sphere? Tell me.
I don't know. Tell me.
Why did you make that claim then? Hold on. I'm replying to him.
You just asked us to answer it.
He didn't know. I heard his answer. He said he didn't know.
I'm not a mathematician.
But you made a claim. My bad. I'm responding to you. You don't know. Now I'm responding to you because I do. You're not going to yield even though he doesn't know?
The equator is a line.
No, I'm telling you that I'm going to show you the argument. Okay. It's not, I'm just posing arguments here because I want to know how you guys respond to this stuff. Okay. This was an argument. This was a challenge that was posed by Red's Rhetoric. Once again, he even put a Mavic.
Do you want to get him on?
Pro
get him on
as a. Oh, I'd love to.
But you don't know what you're talking about. This is your claim.
I just want to put the argument.
Telling people
you don't know the argument. I'm trying to address it. I've already tried to address it, and every time I try and talk, somebody's talking through me. You don't know where the equator.
The same
thing again. Here we go. My God, what is your problem?
Conversation. You're not even answering the freaking questions that David has been asking you.
What about the equator? I asked him where the equatorial plane came from, and he didn't know. And now I'm getting talked through again.
Yeah.
You don't know where the equatorial plane came from, or what the equator. My bad. I'm never going to get this statement out. Never going to get the statement out.
And as you can see, in order to take that picture, notice how the telescope is only moving one axis. It's not pivoting here at all. It's pivoting down here at its base. See that?
Yep.
It's only moving one axis of rotation. Now, let's go ahead and go to an actual model. So what we're going to do is we are going to have a flat Earth model with an object rotating overhead. What does the telescope have to do in order to follow that object? Well, I'm seeing that that telescope on the flat Earth has to rotate two axes of rotation. Here's declination, and here's right ascension. So on the flat Earth model, it has to rotate two axes in order to follow a celestial object. Now, what about the globe? Let's go ahead and check out the globe right here. So on a globe, let's go ahead and let me fast forward here. Oh, there it is. So there's the globe model that we're going to use. The observers in Florida, as it was when Astronomy Live was doing his observation. And as you can see, there's declination, not moving whatsoever. And there's right ascension, moving as it should. So in reality, we only have to move one axis of rotation in order to follow a celestial object. The model needed in order for that to be the case is the round Earth model. And when we apply that to a flat Earth model, we then have to rotate two axes in order for it to follow a celestial object, i.e., there is a contradiction within the flat Earth model. So, given that equatorial telescope mounts work, do you have an answer for the geometric impossibility of an equatorial telescope mount working on a flat Earth?
I mean, that's a ridiculous claim. So first thing that they do is they attribute a model to Nathan and me. We have claimed no model. He picked a model that had that in order to watch the star, you have to have two axes of rotation. And then he said on his globe model, the axis is only one axis of rotation is required. So first of all, I claim no model. Second of all, that is called an affirming the consequent fallacy. It says, okay, we're going to sit here and imagine that we are on a ball rotating. And note that my telescope only has to rotate on one axis. The answer to that is, so what? If you did live on a ball, you would be able to measure the curvature of that ball. If you did rotate at 1,037 miles per hour at the equator, there would be a million different ways that you could verify that. You'd notice. You'd be able to get up in a hot air balloon and then just wait for the Earth to move under you and go there. You have flight times completely different from going east to west and west to east. This affirming the consequent fallacy that you just played for me it's literally proof of nothing. All right, Josh.
Yeah, no, Patrick, you said there's 1,000 different ways to prove if we were on a curved Earth, there's 1,000 different ways to prove it. Give us some of those, and let's have us and the audience and all of us go test that. Because if that's false, right? If the Earth is not curved, and you said there's 1,000 different ways to test that if we were on a flat Earth, then we will be able to find out for ourselves by doing those tests. I mean, does that make sense?
Okay, I've already said the tests, so just to see if I got through.
Okay, go ahead.
Why don't you tell me what such a test would look like? Because I've already explained how one would test such.
Well, maybe I missed that part. Maybe I was going to.
It's literally the entire 2 hours we've been talking about it.
Oh, you're referring to curvature, right?
I
start off with that.
Okay. Well, why don't we just say this? Let's propose certain tests to each other, right? I don't think that we're ever going to come to any agreement on this conversation discussion. I think we can all understand that, right? And look, I'm open to new ideas and concepts. I'm here to learn on this planet, right? I'm here to expand in knowledge. And so what I would like is, if the Earth is flat, great, prove it to me. And the same thing with you. If the earth is curved, great, prove it to you, right? I mean, this is kind of where we're at. And so let's propose, you guys come to us and say, okay, we'll test this. I don't want to test that the earth is curved. I want to test that the earth is flat. How would I do that?
Celestial
Give me
navigation.
those experiments.
With
What's that,
celestial
Nathan?
navigation.
With celestial, like as you explained before, taking the sextant to the horizon. But I'd already said this, but you know, we're talking about 69 miles, 75 miles that we have 1 degree of curve. So curve is negligent at shorter distances. So it's going to appear horizontal. That was my argument. Whether we agree or disagree with that, okay, I'm saying is how else can we determine this? What other ways can we determine whether these theories or these different thoughts of flat or round earth are true or false? I mean, let's truly utilize our resources, utilize our brain power, and get to the truth. And I'm okay with that. Yes. I'm okay with doing experiments is that you guys say, hey, Josh, you know what? Let's go out there and let's test this or test this. Or David, how about this? At noon every day, go out there and, you know, at noon my time and the same corresponding time as David's time zone, we'll measure the angle of the sun in the sky and we'll come up with we'll see what we can do, right? These are things that we can do instead of going back and forth. I mean, Patrick, you said there's no model for flat earth, or that you claim no model for flat earth. The same thing with you, Nathan. And I completely understand that. I don't want to sit here and try to break down a flat earth model when you guys don't have a model. But my question is that if we're going to claim that the earth is flat, how do I know this? And it can't come about through debunking curved earth. Does that make sense?
Because all of the maps and models that you use, including a globe, were made using flat earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. Without exception, your globe model included, they're all flat. They're all derived from flat measurements. The same flat measurements that you use to navigate. That's an elevation angle measurement off a flat baseline. When you describe the 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles, that's 1 degree of declination of the star in your sextant, not 1 degree of a curved Earth. You're measuring.
Well, I'm actually, Patrick.
Nathan.
My
bad. I'm just answering your question after a long, prolonged request for us to prove the flat Earth to you. I'm just answering that. Not lots of waffle and prefacing. Just answering
on
you.
what I said, so I wanted to correct that. If that's okay, is that okay to do that? If you made an incorrect assumption on what I said, I took the circumference of the Earth, divide by 360, you get 69 miles. I was given an approximation of about 75 miles. And this equates to 1 degree. If a circle's 360 degrees, I think we can all agree on that. If we divide 360 by the circumference of the Earth, as in the sense of the globe Earth model, we should get 1 degree of arc length. Can we all agree on that? That makes sense?
I can agree that if you beg the question that the surface is a spherical one, that you can get 1 degree of 360. However, in practical application, when navigating the surface of the Earth and referencing elevations to sea level, you can measure the declination of stars in the sky based on a flat Earth angle. Yes, I appreciate you can beg the question that means the surface is curving, but you can't get elevation angle measurements from a curved surface.
But see, and so for everybody out there, and so kind of what me and Nathan are saying is I'm not disagreeing with him on the sense of how a sextant works. And I did say that before. Am I correct on that?
That proves Earth's flat then.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
What it shows you is that the sextant being used as a local instrument to the horizon is predominantly a flat horizontal plane.
It's incorrect.
That's why that works.
No, you're measuring the GP position of the star, and the angle you have to it beyond the horizon could be several thousand miles.
But that
I'm just correcting you.
What?
Is it okay if I correct you?
To the horizon.
No, to the GP of the star. I know you don't like being wrong, but when you measure the flat plane, that's the flat Earth baseline, the elevation angle to the star is beyond the horizon, flat for many thousands of miles, and described in navigation as an area of equal elevation. That's a flat plane beyond the horizon.
So Nathan, can you show me in the sense, if we're talking here, so I don't know if everybody in the audience knows what a sextant is. Okay. Right. Can you show us how this would work? If I had a sextant, how am I measuring this?
You're measuring a flat baseline.
Is there different parts of the sextant? We got an audience here as well, man. Right. So I'm just trying to extrapolate as much information for everybody as possible. Right.
Sextant
me
is
and you keep going back and forth with this.
Maybe the audience knows what a protractor is, and then we can kind of give them an idea. You're measuring an angle using two straight lines.
One of which is acquired by pointing the sextant at the horizon and leveling the tool. If you're on a ship, obviously rocking back and forth,
correct,
you rock the sextant to get it lined up with the horizon. That is what you do to establish the baseline. That's a flat line to measure an angle. You'll be measuring that baseline, and once you've got it, you can measure the angle to the star. Now that angle will be minus from 90 and times by 60 to give you the distance to the GP. That's the ground position of the star. That would be, or sun, or moon, or whatever else you're measuring in the sky. That ground position is the position where the sun or star is directly above at that time. Now your horizon, if you're very low to the ground, might only be a couple of miles away, but you're establishing a horizontal baseline with a ground position below that star. That's a flat Earth. It can only be measured flat. That's what an angle is. There's my flat Earth proof. Not agree to disagree.
Okay.
It's not a claim either. It just is celestial navigation. My claim
Nathan, let me ask you this.
My claim with celestial navigation is that you cannot acquire an elevation angle measurement for celestial navigation if the Earth has a curved surface. It can only be done. It's a prerequisite. The Earth must be flat to perform celestial navigation.
Is there a required distance for that horizon to be for this to work? Yes or no?
No.
Oh, so I could do it so if I was, let's just say I'm outside and I have a table on a ship. I could use the edge of that table to determine the flat baseline.
No.
Why not?
Because the table's on a ship moving around on the sea. That's why you use the horizon.
But there is no distance requirement to use this. We only have to have a required horizontal base, correct?
Yeah, you look in the horizon mirror, not the table mirror.
Okay. So, like you said, though, is the horizon can be very far away or it can be closer. So there's
We are clear that the horizon's not a table.
Right,
I'm clear. I just want to make sure you understand. You understand the horizon isn't a table.
I understand, but the table is a flat plane.
But it's not a horizon, which is what you look at in the sextant in the horizon mirror.
Correct. And that's kind of where I was saying is I agree with you on how the sextant works. But
with
that
the flat
does
plane.
not equate to the Earth being flat.
It can't not be. It can't measure an angle. If one of the lines is curved, then it wouldn't be an angle, would it?
Well, it's not a precise instrument. It's not
100,000%. It's an angle measuring device. That's pretty precise. Instrument. Yes, it is. You're wrong.
It's pretty precise.
Very.
It's an approximation.
Yeah, very. It's an angle. It just measures angles.
Right. And that's because the distance from a person to the horizon is predominantly flat because the curvature is insignificant at that level.
No, you're using the horizon to establish a flat baseline that could extend thousands of miles beyond the horizon in order to get the GP position of the star so that you can navigate by finding your position with that GP across a circle of equal. My bad, still in the middle of explaining how Earth's flat to you. My bad, just proving Earth's flat to you. My bad. A circle, I'll try again for a third time. A circle of equal elevation. That's a flat circle. No elevation change. Flat.
Anyways.
Seriously, Josh, we have been here. We have been here. We have been here for 2.5 hours, Josh. We have spent most of this time talking about why the curvature is undetectable, how we would go about detecting that curvature. This is just a listening kind of question. How would we design that demonstration to measure the curvature of the Earth?
Well, you can take two people in different parts of the country or relatively far away, right? And we can measure the sun at equal times of the day. Now, if the Earth is flat, we can make approximations of what those angles will look like. And the Earth is curved, we can make approximations of what the curvature would look like. Am I correct?
Flat Earth for those angles.
I mean, first of all, no, it has nothing to do with curvature. But you did hear me when I said that the curvature would be 8 inches times the square of the miles.
Right, but that's an approximation, and that breaks down after about 100 miles.
It is
absolutely it breaks
accurate.
down.
It is incredibly.
It's incredibly accurate for short distances.
Yes,
you know this, Patrick. It's incredibly accurate for short distances.
I'm literally a mathematician. I know how to study circles.
Great, and so it's incredibly accurate for short distances because the curvature of the Earth at short distances is insignificant. But as you get further towards 100 miles, like 69, 70 miles, that equation starts to break down and no longer works because curvature. Yes, it does.
Okay, so this is where, can I just jump in real quick here? Can I just jump in real quick?
That is a blatant falsehood.
Okay, well, then here's what we do. We test it to us. Us physically test it in reality. That would be the proper, because obviously we're not going to convince each other, but this is for the sake of the audience.
Fair enough.
We want to see no. We want to see the different arguments for and against the flat Earth, right? We want to see where's the contradictions, where's the flaws. I think the sun is a really good experiment that we can do. There's other experiments we can do.
Experiment happening here. Okay. No. What do you mean by the sun is an experiment? What does that even mean?
How do we change out experiment with test?
With a test. Okay.
Is that
Let
better?
David finish. I want to hear what he's going to say.
I still don't know what the best word
to do some of these things to try to find out
if
this claims
talking about the curvature of the Earth.
Patrick, hold on. Patrick.
Measuring an angle to the sun. That makes literally no sense.
Patrick, please, Patrick.
Nathan, okay.
I want to hear what you're saying, David. Go ahead, David.
Well, we gotta wrap this up. No offense, but I do have to go because we are coming up on a very long time of this show, which is okay. It's great.
Here's another experiment we can do really quickly. I'm going to take it through. You guys know about the midnight sun. Speaking of the sun, so first experiment would be tracking the sun for days on end to see if there's an angular change in our perspective of the size of the sun. Okay, I'm not talking about the actual size of the sun. That's one thing. Another thing, we could look at this, Kiruna, Sweden, right? And just really quickly, this was something that one of my followers on Telegram had sent in. I just want to propose it, okay? In Kiruna, Sweden, the sun stays up continually, never setting for 2 months in June and July. Yet 8,400 miles away in Australia, it still comes up every day. The total straight line flight distance from Kiruna, Sweden to Perth, Australia is just over 8,000 miles, right? Now, given that we have the sun up over 2 points on the Earth that are 8,400 miles apart, given that the flat Earth sun visibility of 9,000 to 10,000 miles, those who live in America should see the sun at the same time as Kiruna and Australia sees it, as we are only 4,400 miles from Kiruna and only 8,100 miles from Australia. And I got the exact distances there from Atlanta to Sweden. So we could just get some people in Sweden, get some people in Atlanta. We know the mile distance, and then we can start looking at the sun. On a flat Earth, we should, but we get nothing but total blackness. We get total blackness because of the curvature of the Earth as the sun is on the other side. Even in a plane at 36,000 feet high and the flat Earth model of the sun being only 3,000 miles high, we can't see the sun in the USA while it's up over Kiruna and Australia. So why can't we see the sun in America during the time that Kiruna and Australia see it, given the flat Earth model or proposition about the sun? So that's the argument that's posed.
What is the assumption? What is the begging the question assumption that took place in this argument? Just think of this as like a little pop quiz on the nature of the flaw in this logic. Mm-hmm. What is assumed by these people?
that the Earth is curved.
Yep.
So that means I'm telling you, this is the experiment. This is another experiment we could do.
It's another affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If P, then Q.
Okay.
Q, therefore P.
So this experiment is a logical fallacy, Nathan? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Because it's already assuming that the Earth is curved. And I
that,
understand what
and
you're saying.
No, it's
assumes-
showing you that if this phenomena is happening, there's a contradiction that shows itself for the flat concept of the Earth.
It
Based on a
assumes a
model
stationary
straw man
sun.
that we haven't claimed.
Yeah, that's
It assumes a stationary sun.
It's
How
called a
so?
false dichotomy and a straw man. So I haven't claimed this model, and you're burning it in false dichotomy.
So no, it's because it begs the question about why in Kiruna, Sweden, you got 24-hour sunlight for a period of the year, yet in not that far away, you have people that are seeing the sun rise and set.
Therefore,
So
the Earth's a
they're
sphere.
saying there's an issue here that would
Not
not
that
work
far.
out
Therefore,
if
the
it
Earth's
was
a
a
sphere.
flat
You
surface and the
literally,
sun was acting in the way that it would have to on a flat Earth.
you just formalized. You literally went through the affirming the consequent. You verbalized it in the perfect form. That's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy.
So this is not a good experiment to do.
It's not an experiment at all, because there's what's the fun.
It wouldn't be a it wouldn't be a good
Okay.
test.
Stop. What's the first step in the scientific method, please, David?
To make an observation.
No, incorrect. Observation of a phenomenon. That's something occurring that you want to know the cause of.
That's an observation.
No. That's an incomplete statement, because there's nothing to explain the cause of if nothing.
Shit.
My bad.
You know what I mean.
My bad. I'm just correcting you. I know it's painful.
Okay,
There's nothing to study the cause of if nothing happened.
Like, what's up with the
Third attempt. I know it's painful when you're wrong. It's not observation.
I was wrong. I said to make an observation
of a naturally occurring phenomenon. I realise that now 4 people are talking while I'm trying to make the correction. I know you don't like being corrected. It's not me being angry. It's just the 4th attempt for me to say you're wrong. That's an incorrect assertion. Because an observation, 5th attempt to show why I was wrong. 5th attempt.
Can't get anywhere.
Listen,
it's only the 5th attempt to finish this statement.
5th
attempt.
Honestly, man,
I'm not allowed to correct him then. He's just not allowed to be wrong. Not allowed to be wrong.
He wasn't wrong. He asked
he was. Now I've got muted. I love it.
That's...
So for my audience's benefit, I can mute them too on my recording and say that this fuckwit doesn't know what science is. Science involves observation of a naturally occurring phenomena. That's step 1 in the scientific method. It's an incomplete statement to say observation is first step. So he mutes me. After he rinses and repeats 4 times and I say, no, you're going to have my correction. No, I'll be muted by the host. Yeah, neutral platform, this one. Yeah, I'm not allowed to be correcting anybody on the panel when they're wrong about what science is.
$10. I now believe the Earth is flat. Thanks a lot, fellas. Like I didn't have enough things going on. LOL. The round Earth guys are just talking over and have no arguments. They are looking foolish to me. All right.
Yeah, even the audience knows. Not only am I being talked over, I'm being muted whenever I correct him, and he doesn't like being corrected. So you can see on screen now, host has muted you.
We're disappointing. We couldn't.
David, if you're the host, you're a scumbag. You've muted your guests just because you're wrong and don't know what science is. My audience will hear how wrong you are while you've got me on mute with this little label saying the host muted your mic. How epic. How unbelievably rude. You invite me on your show, I come here for free, and all you can do is mute me. The audience knows how scummy you've been, talking through every last word we've said, but you feel the need to mute me as I tell you how you don't know how science works. Epic.
As E. That is the statement. Just want to make sure we got through all of that. Okay. All right. So those are our Rumble says. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for tuning in. And let me just do this. Let's do, because I know everybody's got to run, like a 60-second closing statement to wrap it up. And let's start with Patrick.
We just spent 2 hours and 45 minutes seeing the same fallacy over and over again. We talked about the curve. And every single time we had one of 2 things. One, it was argued that you can't see the curvature because it's insignificant, which is untrue. Or that I have pictures that look like there's curvature. And then we had a situation where nobody wants to just take a telescope and say, if we can see at this great distance, then there is no curvature. It's that simple. And there are 2 other major arguments that we didn't even get a chance to get to. 1, there is no evidence of axial rotation. And 2, there is no evidence that the sky is a vacuum, because then the air we breathe would fill the space and we would all be dead. Thank you.
I think you're muted, Josh. I can't hear you.
Josh? I can't hear you, Josh.
So I said over to Nathan. Nathan, it's you, man. Go.
Oh,
my
Nathan.
bad. Right. Okay, sorry. Yeah, the main way we've been poisoned into belief of a sphere is by misapprehensions about what the scientific method is. And it was very appropriate that I just got muted by the host when trying to correct him on observation being the first step in the scientific method. That's wrong. It's observation of something occurring, so you can establish the cause of the effect. Do systematic experimentation based on a valid hypothesis. That is science. It's empirical, and the illusion of science has been used to deceive you into believing that things like blink tests have empiricism behind them when they don't. So if you want to find out more about how you've been deceived into believing you're on a sphere by way of pseudoscience, that's defined as a claim of science when there has not been an application of the scientific method, then come and watch Flat Earth Debate on Nathan Oakley 1980. You can even join. There's a link published to the public every single day that you can join the debate and express your views on the nature of Earth. Thank you very much indeed to Josh and David for having me. You've been extremely tolerant, and although it's difficult to hear us proving you wrong, and I've been muted many times in the past, I still thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Patrick, for inviting me along.
Josh.
Muted, so I was talking there, thanking Patrick and Nathan. But no, listen, Nathan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Seriously, I do. Because if this is really about the truth, then let's find the truth. Am I right on that? If this is really about the truth, let's find the truth. But I would say that let's do this again. We can come back and touch on the other issues that Patrick was talking about that we didn't get to, right? But also, and I know that you said there's no flat Earth model that you guys absorbed. That's great. But let's just have the assumption that we don't know whether the Earth is flat or round. And let's figure out some tests that we can do to determine whether it is either or. And I don't think that that's a horrible thing. And I know, Nathan, you want to say some stuff on this. But I'm just saying is I think that everybody can understand it. There we are. That if there is tests that we can do, let's do them. And if there is tests that we can't do because either one's not going to prove either that, then we're all wrong. Nobody does know. And so I think that we can use this. And by the way, observation. I understand what you were saying in the sense of observation of phenomena, but observation is the kind of like the taking of your senses of the change of the external environment. So that is a phenomena. So observation kind of does define actually what observation is. So, but either way is we can use the observational evidence, the optional things that come into a self-evident truth that we see within ourselves. And we can develop various different models, whether it's curved Earth or flat Earth. And we can come back and we can say, hey, look, the Earth is flat because, or the Earth is curved because. And I think that would be a very healthy thing to do for this group of men here who have really good levels of intelligence and understandings on these topics, that we all come together and say, hey, look, let's figure out some tests that we can all do and determine this. And the next time we come in, we present the evidence for those tests and we look at the results of those tests and we compare that and we see what makes the most sense. You know what? Honestly, if the Earth's flat, great. I want to be proven it, right? And that doesn't come about by yelling at each other and arguing. And the same thing goes to you guys. If the Earth's curved and you wanted it proved to you, it doesn't come about through argumentation. I think we all understand that. And I think that we all can have a great discussion about this. But let's try to develop a format for this. Testing it. David and I can run some tests. Nathan and Patrick can run some tests. And we can come back and say, hey, look, this is what we found. This is what the data says. And let the audience and ourselves all decide from that. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Anything else, Josh?
No, I appreciate okay. Nathan and Patrick. I mean, I think that I go by Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's taking in new information so you don't just fall into the same continuous aspect that your environment is giving you or the information warfare that's going on is giving you. We don't want to react to our environment. We want to be completely consciously active within it. And I think it's important to hear different perspectives and different points of mathematics and how this actually works, right? Because science is not set in stone. You know, in the late 19th century, oh, absolutely. In the late 19th century, they thought they had everything they thought they knew about physics because of Newtonian physics. Obviously, Einstein came wrong. And I honestly, by the way, Nathan, I disagree with the majority of Einstein. And then maybe that'd be a great discussion to talk about that someday, right? But here's the thing, is science is not set in stone. Science is a dynamic system that's continuously changing. And I think you understand that as well, in the sense that if we're going to look at the Earth, that we're evolving our information on it. That's a dynamic system. It's continuously changing as more information comes into the system. That's systems theory. Yes, that is very true. As more information comes in, you have more understanding of that system if you can extrapolate that data in a meaningful form. Anyways, I just say that next time we go about it, let's come and have a format. Let's have maybe Nathan and Patrick come back and say, Josh and David, this is this. We come up with some tests, and Josh and David go back to Nathan and Patrick and say, hey, if the Earth is flat, this is what we're looking at. This is what we would expect. Can you show us? And I think we go into like that, because I think that would bring about a good basis for the audience to make a determination, as well as our own selves.
Yes, exactly. And just so you know, guys, still love you, Nathan. We had a good sparring match. I was told by John that this had to get heated so we could get more viewers. And I think we hit over like 4,000 viewers. So well done, mate. No hard feelings. Patrick, thank you so much. We don't have to agree on everything. And everybody watching, we don't have to agree on everything. We're all investigating truth together. My focus personally is what's happening on the Earth, regardless of the shape. I'm not saying that this discussion isn't important, but I think we can all agree that we are living in the age of tyranny, lies, and deception. And it's up to each and every one of us to utilize our minds and every part of ourselves to try to find out what is the truth. And in doing that, it's important to look at the opposite opinion of what you currently hold and test yourself constantly against it. The last thing I'm going to drop here is just an address to people in the chat and other people that have sent me that look at this from a more religious perspective. That wasn't the topic of today's debate. I'm not going to bring it up any more than this. Just to give you someone that I agree with on his position. His name's Giordano Bruno, and he was actually burnt at the stake by the Vatican in the year 1600 for going against the dogma of the church. And this is what he had to say. He says, God is infinite, so his universe must be too. Thus is the excellence of God magnified and the greatness of his kingdom made manifest. He is glorified not in one, but in countless suns, not in a single earth, a single world, but in 1,000, I say, an infinity of worlds. And whether you agree with that or not, it's just a philosophical thought that for those of you who think that looking at the world as a sphere, or that there is the reality of an infinite universe or a vast universe, that somehow contradicts creation, contradicts a God, or contradicts Christianity or your cherished belief systems. I have a channel on Telegram that you can go. I'm a collector of refutations to this argument. And love me or hate me for that, at least you have the challenges to all the points that have been brought up. You can find it on Telegram. It's called Flat Earth Refuted. And I'm also posting a link from a friend of mine who's a theologian and biblical scholar who disagrees that the Bible actually says there's a flat earth. And he's got all of his arguments there. He's got a free PDF book. So I just wanted to address that. That could be a topic for a different debate, a different time. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks to Badlands Media for allowing us to be here to host this. I don't personally want to turn my entire career into debating flat earth, but if we want to do some stuff in the future, I'm more than open, and I'd love to do those experiments. So thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to our audience. Much love. The truth is going to win, and I wish you all well. Cheers, everybody.
Night, guys.
All right, we're off the air, gents.
Oh, God, I got to go to the bathroom so bad.
Yeah, so do I.
I've got another show coming up. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it, man.
Pleasure.
It's
my
bedtime
pleasure.
for you, I suspect. And I'll talk to you on Skype, my friend. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next Flat Earth debate.
You're a great host. Thank you,
Great.
Josh. Thank you, David. You both had a lot of spirit. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Nathan.
guys.
You take care, man, and much appreciated for you. You well.
How do I leave?
Thanks, Patrick.
How do I get out?
Thanks,
Press.
Josh.
Close the
We'll catch
window.
up soon.
Just close
All
the
right,
window.
guys. Take care.
Okay, see you
Have a
later.
good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.